Okay. Are we live right now? Is that what the deal is? Well, then let's do it. Okay.
Candace, Andrew, good to sit down here with you, talking to you guys about the conversation that I think started with you being on Joe Rogan when you said, hey, I'm offering $300,000. And for the audience watching this, you have to know when you see this final product, there's a lot of stuff that happens behind closed doors. There was still communication till midnight, even some of the stuff this morning. Like it's like you're trying to sell a company. It's the last 24 hours that the deal doesn't work out, but kudos to the both of you guys that you made it work. The topic of discussion today, how this got prompted is, Andrew, you said there's overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson shot and killed Charlie Kirk. And Candace, your position was he's a patsy. Tyler Robinson is a patsy. So, of course, we'll talk about a lot of different things, but that's kind of how the whole thing got started. For the audience watching, I think this is truly for three different people. Number one is anybody out there that loves Charlie, respects Charlie, his legacy, what he did. We have a lot of love and admiration for what he did. He changed the lives of many people, young men, young women. You worked with him for many years. You guys were friends. You've said a lot of
We
good things
are
about
Charlie
Kirk. You guys may have
Kirk.
disagreed on some things, but you had a lot of respect for him. The second audience is the folks out there, you that's watching this. And so for you, you've been wanting something like this to take place. And kudos for Andrew for coming out and saying, hey, I want to have this conversation, and for Candace to accept it. So you have the ability to say, I agree, I disagree, comment, do all the stuff that you're doing online. And if you want to see more of these things, any of the three channels, subscribe to them, The Candace Show, The Crucible. I'm sure some of the people from Crucible are watching as well, and the PBD Podcast. The more you subscribe to this, the more we're able to deliver these types of conversations to you. And last but not least, it's about the two of you. My goal is to speak as little as possible. 99% of the time, it'll be you guys speaking, and the audience will be able to see it. If I jump in, just so everybody knows, on the back end, both have agreed. In the back, there's three people representing Andrew and three people representing Candace to do fact checking. So at any point, if somebody makes a claim, the other can say, can we fact check this? I can jump in and say, fact check this. Even the folks in the back can say, fact check this. So it is a very fair conversation that we're having here. And so with that being said, kudos to Michael Knowles. Your name was mentioned a lot. You missed out right now. The last 10 minutes, we talked about you. There's a lot of love and respect here mutually from both parties, all three of them here. And then, of course, the great Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Started
Love,
this
love, love,
conversation, and he
love,
also
respect.
volunteered, but it ended up being this format that we have here today. So with that being said, Andrew, your claim is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. opening statements, opening comments.
Sure. And what I mean by overwhelming is I just find it very convincing.
Caffeine. Let's get it going.
I think that's what most people mean when they say overwhelming evidence. So I have a brief opening statement. On September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was murdered. Many of you already know a lot about the events which occurred after Kirk's death. You remember the ghoulish laughter, celebrations, and madness we saw from leftists all over, from TikTok invasions, debates, posts on social media, destruction of memorials, and things like this. Within weeks of Kirk's death, a cottage industry began to form, peddling various alternative theories on how he died. What special interest may have killed him, what nations were involved, and was our own government one of them? Because this was the first nationwide traumatic event in Gen Z's lifetime, the demand for answers was severe and palpable. The leading theory from the conspiracy verse is that Israel worked with the United States government to murder Charlie Kirk. Within a day or two of Kirk's death, Ian Carroll claimed that Israel killed Charlie Kirk, and the conspiracy caught on like wildfire. This theory was built on one misleading piece of evidence, that in his final days, on or around September 8th, Charlie sent a text message reading, "Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause." This was sent in the context of a platforming dispute regarding Tucker Carlson. From this scintilla of misleading information, it was speculated that Israel killed Charlie Kirk because he would have successfully opposed the Iranian war. Now, that's a fun theory, and who doesn't like a good, fun conspiracy theory? I like them. But there is no evidence that Israel actually killed Charlie Kirk. And if Candace has some, I'd like her to actually show it to me. I'm open to suggestions, but to date, there hasn't been any. There is, however, tons of evidence that a leftist killed Charlie Kirk, just as Charlie feared they would. I believe Charlie Kirk, and I have the receipts. No, I didn't have a dream where he came to me and told me that the left killed him. No, he didn't come to me a dream and say, Candace Owens betrayed him. That never happened. In fact, I don't need dreams of any kind because I hold in my possession never before seen messages from Charlie Kirk to his security team on September 9th, 2025. I'm going to share the message with you today, which is the first time this information's ever been publicly revealed. On September 9th, Charlie's security team wrote to him, yes, law enforcement has been fully supportive and agreed to a security plan and posture. Tomorrow's event will be covered by both my team and the campus PD. If additional support is required, patrol units will be available. I have 11 on site. Charlie responded with this, okay, great. Remind them that they are there for one person's security only, because I'm somewhat worried the left is trying to kill me. That was a message sent September 9th. Whatever could he have meant by that? Well, I think he meant exactly what he said, that he was worried the left was going to try to kill him. Now, we'll discuss this more later on in the debate, and maybe I have more never-before-seen evidence that exposes just how wrong and, in my opinion, idiotic.
I would actually want to know a little bit further, like a little bit deeper, like what he actually meant by that. Because the left is a pretty broad. That leaves a lot open there, doesn't it? The left is trying to kill me. I don't know.
Many of these conspiracy theories have been, but that's what happens when you rely on what's called the evidence of the gaps. In other words,
my people in the
they
chat
don't have evidence; they seem to just make up.
Appreciate
evidence.
y'all showing up.
And what did they make up?
Showing the support.
Well, in my opinion, kind of whatever lined the pockets. And I think it's ghoulish to profit off of the death of a good man. But we came here today to debate, and so let's get to it. The debate topic today is, one, my belief that there's overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, and two, Candace's belief that there's overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson was a patsy and didn't kill Charlie Kirk. In sum, the audience is going to decide who has more evidence supporting their theory. My theory is that the state is correct that Tyler Robinson is the killer, at least based on evidence so far, and Candace's theory that Tyler Robinson is not the killer and he's a patsy set up by the feds. To be clear, this is not a question of reasonable doubt. If it was reasonable doubt, and that's all it was, and that's all Candace was proffering, I wouldn't even be here having the debate with her. It's fair to have doubts, as the trial has yet to occur, and the state hasn't even begun to try to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, but Candace makes a more forceful claim. She claims that there's more evidence that Tyler is not guilty of murder and was set up as a patsy than there is for the state's case. And I just think that that's absurd. And she will not be able to demonstrate that in any way. In fact, she has almost no real evidence at all of her theory, whereas my theory is supported by compelling witness testimony, physical evidence, multiple confessions, all of which are independently compelling, but which are even more convincing as each piece of evidence corroborates the others. You'll notice the term overwhelming was included in both theories. This is because Candace demanded I defend.
I think there's a lot of suspicious activity. For sure, suspicious activity. As far as evidence that was, you know, what is it? Admissible? Yeah. For court? Yeah. I don't think so.
My use of that term, which I think is fair, in describing the evidence against Tyler Robinson. She, on the other hand, only wanted to defend her theory as merely viable. That is, until I showed her clips in which she said she believed the evidence of her theory, that Tyler Robinson's a patsy, was supported by overwhelming evidence. Only then did she agree to defend that position. Regardless, we're both defending the claim that there's overwhelming evidence on our side, so it's worth defining that term. When I say the evidence against Robinson's overwhelming, all I'm saying is that I mean that as of right now, I find it very convincing. I see almost no evidence at all, only speculation on verified claims and suggestions of things that could merely be hypothetically possible. Dreams, vibes, feelings, things like this. Almost done, by the way. I have no problem defending the state's case and welcome Candace bringing up any challenges she would like, but if I'm honest, the reason I was willing to pay the $300,000 for this debate was to finally have a chance for someone to demand Candace be held accountable for the unbelievable theories and claims she's been making.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Candace's
Yeah.
investigations into
He actually paid Candace, excuse me, $300,000 to do this debate. Because I remember them talking about that. So I guess that's the path that they took. She fucking, damn, wouldn't that be fucking nice to have such a big name that people are willing to pay you $300,000 for one debate? Damn. Then plus you get all the revenue from the content. Man.
distinguishable from a leftist operation. She couldn't be doing more damage to the right if she were trying. She uses her considerable platform to relentlessly attack one of the most influential conservative outreach organizations for young people, and she's making a mockery of the online right-wing commentary class. She's harming Republicans in an election year by dividing them. She's attacking the very organization Charlie spent his life building, and she's attacking the people he loved.
But also, TPUSA is kind of now making a mockery of itself. And the Republican Party destroyed its own reputation.
Including his wife. And it cost me $300,000. But today, I hope that she finally answers for some of that.
Thank you, Andrew. Candace?
Did you get it out of your system?
I did.
Okay, great. I'm not going to waste time with the preamble because I think I just want to get to the substance of the debate, and we'll just speak to the audience. I have obviously had an audience since we've been covering this case. People know that there was a personal friendship between me and Charlie, and diminishing the pursuit of something that makes sense regarding what happened on September 10th. By throwing it to, this is just people who are conspiracy theorists. These are people who are just trying to generate clicks. I don't think that people should be satisfied by that. I want people to remember that it's important to think. We've been lied to by the government a great many times over, just the last couple of years, if you just think of the things that we've learned about our government. And I do want to say this. What's been the most disturbing element, I think, for everyone is that not only does the narrative not make any sense, which I'm going to demonstrate, I don't need to waste time with the preamble going through the points or trying to insult you or pretending that I've been running a podcast saying it's just dreams and vibes like I'm Miss Cleo. And that's the reason why it's taking so many influencers. It looks like $1 billion industry of influencers to dispute everything Candace says. It's not because I'm on my platform saying I had a dream last night. I don't think I think that diminishes you as an argument. Obviously, we have presented a lot of evidence. You just presented a text message and said, this is evidence. Well, that's how this entire thing began. You're talking about how Israel got into the conversation. It was because immediately after Charlie died, one of the first things we saw was this push to make us all think and remember how much he loved Israel. It's because the prime minister of Israel, who's fighting like a 27 front war, felt that he needed to come do a little mini tour and to be strangely to state that I did not kill Charlie Kirk when nobody was having that thought that I can remember. Nobody was going, I wonder if Bibi Netanyahu killed Charlie Kirk. And then we had a round of influencers who lied and said Charlie was not changing on Israel, that he wasn't having any disagreements regarding that topic, that the day he died, he just loved Israel so much. And I demonstrated via a text message, which you just mentioned, and you're now contextualizing and pretending it was just about Tucker Carlson, which is not true. It was a part of a broader shift that Charlie was having over the last, I would say, actually, on your show, it began since October 7th, which is when I began asking myself more questions about Israel as well. And so, yeah, when all of these things happen in the immediate aftermath, and then I drop a text message after everyone is denying that, Tucker Carlson then comes out and confirms the conversations that he had with Charlie. Megyn Kelly then comes out and confirms the private conversations that she had with Charlie. People then begin to ask a reasonable question, which is, why are we lying about this? If they were forthcoming with that and they had said, hey, yeah, Charlie was starting to ask questions. I think after October 7th, it's reasonable that people are starting to re-examine our relationship with Israel. We wouldn't be here today. But it has been lie after lie after lie, debunk after debunk after debunk. Yes, I did share that I had a dream that Charlie was betrayed. It's not a dream anymore. It's a reality. I look at what the organization has become, the people that they are partnering with, the lies that they are telling, the extraordinary people that they're sending out to say that I hadn't speak to Charlie since 2018, and it begins to look like a conspiracy. And just as a historical fact, that entire term was created by the CIA to gaslight people after the assassination of JFK. So it's not exactly one that makes me nervous. Like calling somebody a conspiracy theorist is essentially saying that they demand further answers and they're not accepting the Fed slop. So I'm grateful that you came today. I
The Fed
don't
slop.
need to, like I said, take cheap shots and discuss your manner of debate or your strategy. And I'm also grateful that you shared that you had that text message today, because everybody watching knows that I have been demanding not a debate, just an open conversation with Turning Point USA. They should be here. It shouldn't be you in that chair. It should be the person that took Charlie's place, maybe Erica Kirk, maybe Andrew Colbert. He's a spokesperson. And rather than doing that, they send us another influencer. So let's see how it goes.
Just out of curiosity, are you between 0 to 100?
This is gonna be good.
Is the likelihood that you think Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk and killed him?
Based on the evidence right now, I don't know. I'd say 75, 85%.
Candace?
If you got hit, even if you were not
shut up,
driving,
bitch.
you need to try this.
Because if you were in a car accident,
0%.
0%.
I'm at 0.
So
With what we've seen in terms of the evidence, I'm at 0%.
So not only, that maybe somebody was behind him as a patsy influencing him, you're not even saying that he didn't even shoot Charlie Kirk.
Right.
And kill him.
I would, if you said, was he involved that day, as
Right.
I have consistently said on my platform, I would say yes, he was. I don't know what role he played, but as the shooter, 0%.
Do you have any evidence for it?
For what? My percentage?
The fact that he didn't shoot and kill Charlie Kirk.
Yes, which I'm hoping we're going to get to all of the evidence that he feels that he has. I mean, I'm not even convinced that Charlie was shot from the rooftop on Losi that day, based on the evidence that has been.
Do you think he was shot?
I do not think that Charlie was shot from a 30-06 from
Yeah,
Losi.
but just shot at all.
I don't know. I think that a projectile hit Charlie, and I'm open to other people's presentations, but I have not seen any compelling evidence that Charlie was shot by a 30-06.
Can we see maybe if we're gonna have an olive
Oh.
branch to each other?
My
if
bad, I'm
maybe
not
we
looking at the
can
comments.
Establish what we consider the facts of the case to be first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Bro, 12 cell
So
phones.
you're not sure if he was actually shot. You're open to alternative theories. To that.
He was
12 cell phones linked to Israel were left at the scene. What the fuck? I know the hand signals, and his team absolutely knew seconds before Charlie's went. Yeah, that was like another thing. Also caught on camera. There was like, it's like it could be nothing, but it really looks like there's some people doing like some fucking incognito hand signals. They literally, oh yeah, concreted over the crime scene. Yeah, they did. Yeah, see, I haven't even, I forget about some of this shit. Dude, that's fucking crazy weird, bro. That is crazy fucking weird. Why the? It's a fucking crime scene, bro. Why would they just fucking concrete over it the day after a fucking high profile murder? What? That's weird, bro. That's weird. This is what 300,000 looks like. Yeah. Speaking of a lot of fucking money, though, I think it was like 150 million. Another really suspicious fucking thing is that uh, Charlie Kirk uh, declined. I want to say it was like 150 million fucking dollars from Israel. I don't know if it was APAC or just uh, somebody in Israel. Basically like lobby money to just kind of keep on with the pro-Israel message, but Charlie Kirk declined the money. That's weird. That's weird. I don't care who you are. That's weird. All right.
Definitely hit with a projectile of some description. If we're talking about was he shot from a gun, a 30-06, I would say definitively no.
Okay.
It defies common sense to think that he had a Superman neck, and even if he did have a Superman neck, which has been demonstrated, I think actually recently a YouTuber actually set up Valhalla steel cages and shot it, and it went through. So under no circumstance will I.
So at least not a 30-06.
Definitively not. A
Okay,
30-06
but you
from
are
low sea,
open-
150 feet. No.
But you're not necessarily closing off the avenue that he could have been shot at all.
With maybe a smaller
Caliber? Okay. And then there's some things that I'm going to make concessions on that I do think we need more answers on, and I'm fine with that. And we can get to those things as well. The other thing is in the timeline, one of the things that we dispute, I think, on the timeline is that you think that Robinson drove hours away to a steakhouse in
Yes.
the timeline. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the compelling evidence that you think you have there?
I spoke to the owner of the restaurant, and I have seen the receipt. I know the conversation that I had, and I think it's enough that it will be presented. Obviously, if this goes to trial, but yes, I do believe that he was in Panguitch, which is near his grandparents' home.
Did he give you an unedited copy of that receipt?
I have seen an unedited copy of that receipt. It was not given to me from the owner. But I want to, before we get into like all the timeline stuff, I want to address what you think is evidence so we can keep this on par with what your claim is.
Well, I think that that's a piece of evidence that's in dispute. And that's why I'm.
Yeah, but
because if
we're
not
trying to get
establishing
to
the
whether there's
timeline-
overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson did this.
Yeah,
So
if you
whether
want to
then
use
starting
the first,
with
if you want to use the first part of that for the internal critique,
yeah,
for you,
we should
that's
go
fine.
over the actual
Okay,
evidence that
so
we feel.
The first reason that I think it's compelling evidence is that Tyler Robinson's rifle was found near the crime scene. So I would consider that to be very good evidence. And also the fact of the matter is that I dispute this claim that a 30-06 could not have made this wound. I think that that's absurd. 150 grain Remington core lock absolutely could shatter when it hits the neck of any human being. When you say that there's some steel neck and it's a smaller caliber, you have to make a counter explanation. Why wouldn't a smaller caliber also go through bone?
It could. I didn't say it can't.
Right, exactly. So if that's the case, then ammunition is.
Yeah, I keep hearing people talk about that. What are they trying to suggest? Because a 30-06, I'm very familiar with the 30-06. That was my grandpa's preference of rifle for deer hunting, and it's pretty good size caliber of a gun and a round. I mean, it does some damage. Like, I don't know, like, are they trying to say that they think that the wound that Charlie Kirk had did too much damage for a 30-06?
Going to be the critical key here. And if we have frangible ammunition, which we do in this case, a flex tip round, well, I'm sorry, not a flex tip, a soft point round from 150 grain Remington core lock, that's just a small jacket that goes around the actual lead piece. This thing could have split apart in air for all we know, but definitely upon impact. And we have the medical examiner who confirms this in a summary My team can bring that up, the summarization, which means he would have to be a part of some kind of conspiracy as well.
Okay, so just to start with your point
Maybe
about
he
saying
is.
that the gun was found near him.
Most traders spend before they know what they're buying. Think Capital lets you try the environment first, test the platform, explore the tool.
Near Losey Center, or I guess off in the woods. That gun. Did you watch the testimony? Did you? Did you watch the preliminary
hearing?
hearing?
Covered it live. Yeah.
Okay, so forgetting what the summary of the medical report was, did you watch the testimony that was given by the Caitlin Oliver, the
Signals and his team absolutely knew seconds before Charlie's mic exploded. They literally. Oh yeah. Let's see. Oh wait. I guess I just skipped that comment earlier. No, brother, those were military hand signals, and the building exits were not secured. The money right after his death. Look it up. Oh, Erica Kirk accepted the money right after his death. No fucking shit. Erica Kirk is linked to the CIA and Israel. Look it up. The bullet was lodged in Charlie's spine, and no autopsy was done after his death. Get real. Why did this security team immediately remove the camera? Yeah, that's dude, I hear you, man. There's a lot of really suspicious ass shit. Like, I don't know if this stuff was qualified to be in like the court proceedings, or why wasn't it? I mean, I don't know, man. Charlie security team was bought. Yeah. I mean, if it was not this Robinson dude, and like Israel had something to do with it, Charlie's security team would have had to have been compromised.
the ATF woman, Samantha Carner, any of those people who went into the science of
Yes, I recall. You're talking about
the bullet
when they-
analysis.
Yeah, when they went into the DNA.
Okay, so that's kind of the most relevant part.
Okay.
I'm not denying, I've never denied on my platform or anywhere else that a gun owned by Tyler Robinson was found near the crime scene, right? That
Okay.
doesn't remove, if you think somebody set up as a patsy, you could take a gun out of this room right now and you could walk out and plant it in the woods near a crime scene.
I
That's
agree.
not convincing evidence to
I
me.
concur with the fact that that's a possibility.
So you
logically possible.
I think, have said on a platform that you were a gunsmith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and for how many years?
Many years.
For many years.
Mm-hmm.
You also said that you were an Army sniper.
I wasn't a sniper in the Army.
Okay.
And I never said that. By the
Sorry,
way.
your wife tweeted that you were an Army sniper.
Yeah, I don't know. Like 15 years ago, she said something.
Does it
She said
change
that
15
was-
years later?
She said that it was colloquial. So I
Army
don't-
sniper is a colloquial term?
Yeah, I was never an Army sniper.
Okay. What did you do in the Army? Did you teach this? Then I corrected it and said you taught rifles in the Army?
No, I didn't teach rifle. No, I taught rifles as a private citizen.
Okay.
Hmm. And I was an NRA instructor for many
Okay.
years
So,
alongside my gun shop.
As with your expertise, when she gave testimony on the stand, Samantha Carner, that there was dust and there was debris
Mhm.
that was found in the gun barrel.
Yep.
And then when we had the person who, and this was, I believe, Caitlin Oliver, who explained painfully about the DNA, the prints.
Well, let's start with a
No,
point
no,
at
no,
a time.
I'm not done. You said something, so I'm going to finish my thought, right?
You don't want to do a point at a time?
No, well, sure. If you want to respond to,
Well, I
but
wanted
I
to
want you to
start
respond to
with
2
the
points.
logically
You, I think, have said on a platform that your expertise, when she gave testimony on the stand, Samantha Carner, that there was
My bad. Kit Kat, stolen valor. He blames his wife for his stolen valor. Oh, is that what he did? may have
dust
missed
and
something.
there was debris that was found in the gun barrel.
Yep.
And then when we had the person who, and this was, I believe, Caitlin Oliver, who explained painfully about the DNA, the prints.
Well, let's start with a
No,
point
no,
at
no,
a time.
I'm not done. You said something, so I'm going to finish my thought, right?
You don't want to do a point at a time?
No, well, sure. If you want to respond to,
Well, I
but
wanted
I
to
want you to
start
respond
with
to
the
2 points.
debris.
I want you to start with 2 points.
Okay.
Dust and debris in the gun barrel.
Yeah.
Secondly, the fact that there were 5 sets of prints, 5 plus actually by the end of the testimony, 5 sets of prints for which we already had the woman who worked for the FBI forensics testify that above 2 prints, if you're taking a sample, it's no longer a science, right? She testified that when they took the sample of what was on the trigger, they saw 5 plus prints. And among those 5 plus prints, Tyler Robinson's was the most degraded. So I would like you to explain how Tyler Robinson's prints could be the most degraded when she said, actually, you could have DNA on something that you've touched. You could have DNA on something that you've never touched. And to get DNA degradation, they've looked at pieces, items 20, 40 years on that don't have degradation. Yet Tyler Robinson's prints, amongst 5 plus other prints, were the most degraded on that weapon.
Yeah. So let's get into all 3 of the claims. First, with debris. When it comes to debris, firing a rifle doesn't always blow the debris out of the barrel.
Okay,
So-
you think there could be debris and dust.
Yeah.
He just fired the weapon.
Sure.
Okay.
Not only that, he left it in a forest. Now, I don't know if you agree with me, but if you leave a rifle in a wooded area, it's also possible that debris could get in that way. But I'm not even sure that that's what the case is. I think it's far more likely that he fired the shot, it just didn't blow all the debris out, and it often doesn't. You'll find this if you take Grandpappy's dirty rifle and it's all dusty inside the bore and you go fire it, you'll often look down the bore and there's still dust.
Okay.
Happens all the time.
Okay. And the prints?
Yeah. So the prints, we don't know all of the details on just yet.
We do. It was excruciatingly long. Testimony on the prints.
We don't, because they haven't gone to trial, so we don't know on the print front. But Tyler Robinson's DNA was on there. You made the claim that Lance Twiggs' DNA was on there, and it was not.
Well, when she gave the testimony, no. Hold on. First, let's go to your first point because that's wrong. We can get a fact check on that. What do you mean we don't know until it goes to trial about the degraded prints? She testified, and
Yeah.
this is the person who took the prints.
Yes, but the problem is that inside of this particular testimony, you agree with me that there's going to be much more of the DNA analysis in the trial, right?
But you also would agree that her fact is not going to change, that among the prints, his was the most degraded.
Even
so I'm
if-
asking you to
but
address that. How could that be
here,
possible?
Let's give it, let's just grant this for a second as a possibility that his fingerprints were degraded.
And it's not a possibility. It's a fact. The person who took
hang
it.
on. I'm just granting it for the sake of argument.
You should grant it because it's a fact that
so
she
now,
presented.
So now it's
Okay.
granted. So what?
What do you mean? So what?
Yeah, so what? What does that prove?
Yeah, he does have quite the resume. We need to look into Andrew's background. This is getting thick. They got him to touch the weapon in another location. It's very possible.
It proves that if his prints were the most degraded amongst 5 of them, you're going to have to explain how that's possible if he's the one that recently fired the weapon.
Yeah, so wait a second. You're saying that it's an impossibility that if his fingerprints are the most degraded,
I'm telling you
if
to
that's the
explain it.
case.
You're the gunsmith. So
Well, wait a
explain it.
second. How would a gunsmith give an analysis on fingerprints or DNA? Do you think that I work in a DNA laboratory
So
with
your
fingerprints?
answer is I don't know. You can just say you don't know.
But
you
I
don't
did.
have to.
But I did.
No, you said so what? So
Yeah,
say
so-
I don't know.
but
I
what would
actually don't
that-
have an
what would
explanation
that
for that,
prove,
Candace.
though, is my question.
Well, I think that what it would prove is that it is a more viable theory that people who had stronger prints on the gun may have used it more recently.
Did they say who else had fingerprints on the gun?
They named Matt Robinson explicitly.
Okay.
And this was a part of the testimony where she was speaking about how they got samples of elimination samples from the home of Amber Robinson, Matt Robinson, and Lance Twiggs. Those were the 3 names they named.
So are you saying that Twiggs
Would you like me to
fingerprints-
finish my statement?
I just want to make sure I'm clarifying.
I'm trying to finish the answer, but it can't be clarified until the answer comes out of my mouth.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
this was a portion of her testimony where she was explaining how they got elimination samples from the home. And she named Matt Robinson, Amber Robinson, and Lance Twiggs as the elimination samples that she was using. And so she explicitly said, some of them, so we can assume 2 out of the 3, were their prints were found on the gun. She explicitly named Matt Robinson as someone who had prints on the gun, and then said there were 5 people that they had taken that sample from. And again, what's also relevant here is the earlier testimony, which came from the FBI forensics analyst, I believe it was on day 2, where she said that when you're using those mixtures and those samples and you get up to 5+, it's really hard to make any sort of a determination. So both of those things are relevant. If you can't explain why his prints are the most degraded and you're saying he is the shooter, it's not really a so what. It's an open-ended question that people have a right to pursue. It's not a conspiracy. It's actually proof of my claim that there's evidence that he was set up as a patsy.
That wouldn't prove anything about him being a patsy.
They said it's evidence to support the claim that he could have been set up as a patsy.
So this is why I said earlier, so what? Because even if it's the case that this doesn't have an explanation for it yet, that doesn't actually give you any evidence in your corner for Tyler Robinson being a patsy.
Okay,
hang on. I didn't cut you off. Right? You would need to actually explain how this would demonstrate Tyler Robinson. This is tied into to Robinson being a patsy. Are you claiming that these fingerprints were Lance Twiggs or that he had any DNA?
I'm saying that it could be Matt Robinson, it could be Amber Robinson. That sort of information is going to come out during the trial.
How would that tie into the idea that he's a patsy?
Yes, because if his is the most degraded prints and the information that I shared on my platform is true, that this gun was given to Tyler Robinson as an heirloom. I had conversation with members of the Robinson family, Twiggs family, both of them. You know, like I said, we're not just dreaming. And if we're having those conversations and they told me that that gun was only given to Tyler Robinson because it was a family heirloom. Okay, so it was his grandfather's gun or great-grandfather's gun.
Okay.
I don't remember the difference. I don't remember which one it was. And so he got it because he's the firstborn. So, but he's not much of a shooter is what I was told. And so he has this because he inherited it, essentially. So if I get something from my grandpa and I put it up on the shelf and I own this, you could see that could be...
How do we get to the patsy part?
You don't let me ever get to the end of the sentence. So how could we get to the patsy part
Okay,
if I can't get to the end of the sentence?
Patiently till we get to
So
the
that
patsy
could be a
part.
reasonable explanation as to why there was dust in the barrel, because he doesn't often shoot this weapon and he is indeed a fisher. And it could also be a reasonable explanation for why we have Matt Robinson's prints on this. Obviously, Lance Twiggs, even if he has prints on things, they live together, that doesn't really mean anything. But that could demonstrate that somebody took his weapon and put it somewhere. His prints are the most degraded. Somebody else's prints, there's more presence of somebody else's prints, and that could demonstrate that somebody is taking items from his house and putting it into various places.
But it also could demonstrate nothing. So the problem that you have here is that this is pure conjecture.
No,
this is not evidence that Tyler Robinson is a patsy. It's only evidence that you have conjectured up that, well, if it's the case that these are the more degraded prints, then therefore that means must be patsy because dad's fingerprints on gun.
I didn't say must be patsy.
Describe how this actually links in to Robinson being a patsy.
Okay, I just described that for you, so I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you, so I'm going to move on from that. But to just go back to your point about this is not evidence, you can't make that claim because the entire basis
She's not
for why
very
you think that
intelligent.
there's evidence for Tyler Robinson being the person that took
Degradation
the
of
shot
fingerprint
is based off of a hearing under Utah
does not
1102
mean
rules, meaning that they are
not
doing the
recent.
exact same thing that I am doing. This is the state. You said you're here to represent the state. Well, did you watch the preliminary
no, I
hearing?
didn't say I was here to represent the state.
The state's position you think is strong and convincing.
What
okay?
I'm here to do is represent my own opinion,
You
which
said
is
in
that
your opening
based
statement-
based on the
So normal Pokemon dead. Hey, what's up, brother? So what is your take so far? I mean, do you think the Robinson dude did this, and Candace Owens is like full of it, or what? And give me a like and subscribe.
evidence presented
Every chance
so
you
far by
get.
state
The state has
that I find it
presented
convincing.
evidence under Utah's 1102 rule.
But this doesn't demonstrate any patsy
No, that's very
behavior.
important because that rule is hearsay. So you can't say at the same time,
Great.
Candace, you're not allowed to. And what that means under the Utah rule, which I'm sure you know, because I'm sure you watched the preliminary hearing and yourself understand what that means, is that the entire hearing was hearsay. It means none of that information that was presented is going to be allowed. The majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it is not going to be allowed at the trial. They're allowed to present when it's just a probative
I
hearing.
don't think all the evidence that was put in was hearsay.
Okay, you didn't watch this case.
But not only that,
No, this is a huge point. This is crazy
we
that you
can
don't
call
know
for
this.
a fact check if
Yes,
all the
well,
evidence
we need
was
more than a
put
fact
in.
check. This was every single
The team
day.
in the back is
Utah
actually
rule
saying They want to
1102.
go there. So they said there's a medical examiner's explanation of the shooting that's in the back. Rob, if you want to pull it up, and then Candace, if anybody from your team wants to pull something up, no problem as well. But they're requesting it. If you guys got it, pull it up so we can show it. And in the interim, is that it?
Yeah. So I'll read this.
Just what are we looking at, just so we know?
Yeah.
So Pokemon dead, and what's that? Fran Taylor. I appreciate y'all joining up. Be sure to like the video, like the live, and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you.
this says the bullet, or at least part of it, sequentially perforated the interior left of Mr. Kirk's neck, strap muscles of the left side of the neck. This is a summary, by the way. Left common cartoid on the left internal external jugular veins. The bullet also obliterated the left side C27 vertebrae, transacted the cervical spinal cord. Medical examiner observed a significant portion of Kirk's cervical spinal cord was traumatically absent. Mr. Kirk suffered from other severe injuries, including bilateral, apical, and posterior intercausal hemorrhages, pulmonary, apical hemorrhages, multiple disruptions to the thyroid, et cetera, et cetera. So the summary of the examination said he was shot.
Okay.
That was what they were pulling that up for.
Okay, and I'm not disputing that he could have been hit with a projectile. We're not disputing that, so I don't know why this was brought up as a fact check. Could you bring up 1102 Utah rule? Because this is an unbelievable point that you're making by saying that I am not allowed to infer off of evidence.
You can infer. I'm trying to follow the inference.
But your entire reason, like you asserted that you believe there's overwhelming evidence on the basis of what we saw in the preliminary hearing. The entire preliminary hearing was hearsay.
Yeah, I'm fine with your inferences.
But no, you just literally said I couldn't do that. Yes, I can.
No, I didn't. I'm just saying from your inference, how do we get to Patsy?
This is how you got to Shooter. The Tyler Robinson did it.
No,
the same way that you got to Tyler Robinson.
From that.
Yes, you did. You again, this is something important, so we should pull up a fact check about what the 1102 Utah, and under their constitution, for the sake of a preliminary hearing, they do not have to have hard evidence. They don't have to put people on the trial.
They don't have to.
But no, that's why the entire hearing was basically hearsay. Officer Bagley was saying,
but not all of it, like I said.
The overwhelming majority.
Again, no
I mean,
dispute.
outside of the one that you don't want to give. Please don't cut me off.
Though.
Outside of that is what's in dispute. It means that your entire brand of saying you don't have evidence, falls apart when the entire preliminary hearing is based off of hearsay. In fact, Lance's testimony before they had about an hour debate. Actually, maybe it was more than an hour debate before he sat, and they said this is not going to be allowed. You wouldn't even be allowed to do this. We'd be able to cross-examine him. The questions that they're asking Lance are all leading. And what did he say? Well, I'm the magistrate under Utah Constitution. 1102. It is my job to allow all of this so we can see if the state has enough here that we can then move to a trial, which will then, they would not allow this stuff. They would say we get to cross-examine Lance. Lance just can't willy-nilly say.
I'm not disputing.
But the entire substance of your argument is that people can't infer off of evidence. That's what you're saying to me. When you say, Candace,
Here,
you
I'll
can't
give
talk
you the
about the degraded
argument
prince, which is a fact.
Yeah, I'm not
and
saying
then infer
that.
off of that
Didn't say
that Tyler could have been a patsy.
You're just
literally
making stuff up. So here's what the position is. I'm asking this.
I'm saying that I think you, let's pull that up. Let's pull that up. I am doing exactly what the state did. I am looking at a piece of evidence, and I am saying.
But you're not showing me how you get there.
Can you describe to the audience what Rule 1102
so this,
means?
just so everybody who's watching this at home understands what I'm saying, even if he doesn't. What Andrew is arguing is that I don't have the right to extrapolate from a fact like
just making it up. Just purely making it up. I'm asking based on
Andrew. Can I show my evidence? You just showed yours. Reliable hearsay.
You'll get a chance.
Reliable hearsay in criminal preliminary examinations. The entire preliminary hearing that you just saw was on the basis of reliable hearsay, and what that means essentially is the people who are making the statements can just say, "Patrick told me that he did this on Monday." Patrick's not here, and that is, they can allow that into the hearing. That's just because it's just meant to be probative. And so it's the state saying, here's what we have inferred. So you are allowed to take a piece of evidence, and then you are allowed to infer off of that evidence, okay? Case in point, that's a demonstration that's a demonstration of what I just did. I said, the prints were the most degraded off of Tyler Robinson. And from that, what I am inferring is that it's plausible that Tyler Robinson was set up.
That doesn't, that's the point in contention.
That's not a point in contention. That's
the point in contention.
It's not a point in contention. If you're saying it's a point,
it is the point in contention.
It's not the point in contention. I'm telling you that was what the entire hearing allowed for. So the evidence that he is describing,
we're asking you
that he is using to argue his case is all based on inference, not fact.
Great.
Inference, not fact. So what they are inferring off of the facts.
So again, we're going to take this, and I'm just going to even grant it because it's irrelevant. I'm asking how you get to the inference that even if you dispute that piece of evidence, that means Patsy. I'm looking for the logical chain for how you get to that inference.
What I am telling you is it's the exact same way that when you tweeted, I think that this evidence is overwhelming. When they say that looks like Tyler Robinson's car, he drives a similar car. Okay, they are inferring that that's Tyler Robinson.
Can you walk me through the inference so that I understand?
It's not a fact. It's not a fact. When you show a blurry image, which you kept citing that we have
I'm
images.
talking about your inference that the fingerprints even if they're degraded equals Patsy. How do you get that inference?
I didn't say it equals Patsy. I think it is enough evidence that it should be explored, which is exactly what this preliminary was in the inverse.
That's not in dispute. What's in dispute is when you said, I'm using this as evidence that he could have been a Patsy. I'm asking, how do you get the inference to Patsy from that?
Because what I am saying is that it shows that somebody else had more DNA presence on that gun than Tyler Robinson did. So it is plausible, which is all they're doing. They're presenting plausibility based off of the facts, okay? It is plausible that somebody just took his gun and put it there. That's it.
Is there equally...
that's how it works.
And is there equally 100 other plausible explanations?
I think that's the reason why most people are exploring when things don't make sense.
Got it.
So yes, at the beginning of that, this is how the court process works.
So
just so we're clear,
if there's
this is the
100 other
state's evidence
plausible
and they're
explanations, then Candace, why is it that we should go with this idea that it was a Patsy?
I'm not saying that we should go with the idea that it was a Patsy. I am saying that there is.
I thought that was the whole defense. Your whole claim.
No,
today.
my whole claim was that there is more evidence that he is set up as a Patsy.
How does that equal evidence of Patsy?
I don't know how many times I can say this. Like I'm saying that I am using the exact same mechanism that you are accepting for some reason in the Utah courtroom.
Yeah.
Right. To say I'm going to look at the evidence and I'm going to infer an alternative theory. So you just saw the states and you're accepting it, and they have not presented any concrete facts. You listed on your own Twitter that what you found to be convincing was something that looked like his car pulled into the driveway, a blurry image.
No, I didn't.
A standard white guy coming up the steps that could literally be anyone.
This never happened.
Can we get a fact check on that? Can we pull up his tweet where he goes over the four?
I didn't say that's what convinced me.
When you actually didn't say it's what convinced me, but you said this is the evidence that you found to be overwhelming, and you named, I believe, actually 5 things. I think you said it was his car. You said it was.
Well, there's multitudes of things that I find.
You just said you didn't say
evidence.
it, so we're going to get a fact check on that. You did.
Go ahead.
You said the blurry images coming up the steps. Quite literally, when Officer Bagley testified, they talk about when I'm talking about making inference. This is the most I thought was the most absurd testimony I've ever heard. And pardon me, it was actually David Hull. They asked him a question. How did you know the guy in the maroon shirt was the same as the guy that came up the stairs later that was wearing the American flag black shirt? And he said, they're wearing the same shoes.
Why is that absurd?
That's how you decided these two are the same people. Oh, wow. What a scientific. They're both wearing Converses. Okay. That's an absurd thing to say. That is not evidence that these are the same people if we're both wearing Converses. That was what he said. That's what flew on the stand.
But I still don't understand how that would be absurd. If somebody,
it's an absurd thing.
For instance, if somebody were to change their clothes but keep the same shoes on, wouldn't you utilize the shoes to try to track that person? If
the idea that on a college campus, 2 people wearing this totally different outfits but both wearing Converses can't happen is such an absurdity that I don't even need to argue that. I'm just going to let people. Why is it absurd? Just concede that point. Obviously, it's an absurd thing to say.
I'm not
I know
sure,
these are the same people because they're both wearing Converse.
Yeah, I'm not sure if in context that's what happened. But
even if it is, you can get a fact check on it.
But even if it is, again,
and it was
if we're utilizing inferences, whenever we're dealing with logic and we're dealing with making a logical inference, we're going to take the entire collaboration of evidence and then we're going to make inferences from that. You would do that with any type of logical proposition. Otherwise, you could never have a true or false claim.
But you just told me I couldn't.
So
do
when
that.
that never happened. You're just making stuff up. So anyway, when we're talking about logical inferences, what I'm looking for is the logical inferences that you have that Tyler Robinson's a Patsy based on the totality of evidence that you have.
We can keep going through your other evidence, but we should find his tweet where he lists the reasons that he was convinced.
So let's start with the 30-06. I think that's fine.
Your team's looking for. Do you remember how long ago that was?
The tweets of the 5. Did you delete it? Or no?
No,
Did you delete
tweets.
Okay, cool. I just look for. He said it was
misspell.
his car. It was his. It was the car, and it was definitely the staircase photos, and it was when the trial was going on.
Okay, she has it. Perfect. If you got Skylar has it. If you want to pull it up so we can see it.
Somebody said, so give me the clear evidence right here. I want you to provide it right here. All I heard from the investigator was, we believe this to be Tyler Robinson. Is belief something you go as a fact? You wrote the car pulling in. That's a totally blurry image. Robinson getting out of it. You have no idea if that's Tyler Robinson. The fact that he is seen 4 other times on camera, the fact being just a standard white boy with brown hair was seen walking up staircase. The DNA on the roof, we should discuss that. And on the screwdriver that he left behind, it's overwhelming, man.
Yeah, but that's not an exhaustive list.
Well, just so we're clear, you did tweet it.
But it's not an exhaustive.
Yeah, but just 5 seconds ago, you should concede.
You said I only said this one thing and said that was overwhelming, actually.
That's not what I said.
It is. You could even
Patrick,
pull your own
did I
clip.
say that?
Can you fact check if that was said or not? I did not hear her say
So the
this.
thing that's funny here is like we still aren't getting to any of these inferences. So
Why are you pivoting?
so
But
that-
just say
well,
you
I'm
were
not.
wrong.
I'm
It's cool
gonna-
to just say I was wrong. I didn't say it.
I'm not wrong. So back to the tweet aspect here. It was really funny. That's not an exhaustive list of why I find it.
I didn't say it
overwhelming.
was exhaustive. I just said you said it.
And on top of well, no, you didn't. You said that I only said this one thing, and then said based on that it's over. Well, I didn't. You didn't mention that I mentioned the screwdriver, DNA, all of these other things. You never mentioned any of that. So no, you're actually incorrect there. But on top of that, moving over to the actual evidence itself.
Are you?
Yes, I'm okay. Anyway, back to the
Wasn't
evidence
asked if you're
itself.
okay.
Yes,
Actually,
I'm
I'm glad you're asserting that you're
But
okay.
back-
I wasn't worried about your health. I'm just
but
saying
back
that
to
I just
this.
said you tweeted this. You said no, I didn't. We got a fact check, and now you're like just gonna gaslight me and pretend that I
There's
said
no gaslighting.
it wasn't exhaustive. I never said that. I just said you did
There's
say this.
Zero gaslighting.
I didn't say you couldn't have said more,
Yeah.
but I would like to address what
I mean,
you
this
said
is
in
your
that tweet.
time. If this is how you want to spend it interrogating my position, you can do it that way.
I'm just addressing what you asserted on your Twitter was like the hard evidence that convinced you was overwhelming. That's literally
That's
your
not
debate
what
claim.
you said. That's not actually, in fact, what happened in that exchange. I was here for it.
So what's your position here?
Yeah, so my position is that based on all of the evidence, which has been demonstrated, at least all the evidence to my knowledge, that I'm actually not seeing anything that's compelling as an alternative theory. I'm not seeing anything which is convincing me of something otherwise than what the state is presenting as evidence. That's my position, if
Okay.
that's what you're asking me.
So just going back to what you did actually tweet, is it fair to for me to ask questions about that? That's
Is that the
evidence.
only tweet you're going to ask me about?
Well, we're addressing your claim that the evidence is overwhelming, and this is a tweet where you listed what you felt was overwhelming. I think that's fair.
but not
right?
ex-
I feel like
sure,
that's fair.
but not exhaustive, just so you know.
And I never said it was
Okay.
exhaustive,
Go
even though
ahead.
you said I did.
Sure, whatever you want.
But yeah, so going back to that, all of that, as you say to me, well, Candace, why are you addressing and making inferences off of the testimony?
No, I
of-
never asked you why. You're making inferences. I asked you how, with the inference you made, you got to the conclusion.
Okay, so I would like to know how you got to the conclusion, and I'm just going to throw it right back at you because
Yeah,
for some
that's
reason
fair.
you permit yourself to do it, and that's what I'm demonstrating is that you permit yourself to do it, and then you say when I do it, it's a conspiracy, right?
No.
How are you able to infer off of blurry staircase images that that is Tyler Robinson?
Yeah, so in that particular case, what you do is you take that evidence, you combine it with other evidence. So it's not just that Tyler Robinson is seen in the staircase.
Why are you calling him Tyler Robinson in the staircase? That's what I want to get to.
Yeah, because, I mean, we'll just use this. If you don't agree that that's Tyler Robinson, then you would just have to humor me. I think it is, so I'm using the name.
But why do you think it is? Because you
I'm
make
trying-
everybody, you
that's
call them
literally what I'm
conspiracy
trying to
theorists.
explain to you.
Okay.
So if you're asking for my inference why I think it's Tyler Robinson is because Tyler Robinson said in his text messages, you'll be able to see me on security footage at the campus. Said it in his own messages. On top of that, Twigs, yes, you can pull them up if you want to fact check that. He did say. On
Yeah,
top
I would.
of
I'm sorry. I
that,
actually think I really did miss that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just
Yeah.
I don't remember him.
No,
saying
sorry,
you're
y'all. I
gonna see
keep
me in
missing
the
y'all's
video.
comments. I
Pull
keep
that up.
getting
Yeah, I know.
preoccupied.
by the
Right.
way,
Pull it up.
Twigs himself
Trying to get
said that
live
he
on
had
multiple
some-
platforms.
That he had some, maybe a tiny bit of doubt, but it sure looked like Tyler Robinson inside of this various surveillance footage that he saw.
So Lance, sorry.
Hang
Go
on,
ahead. You're
hang on.
right.
So there's multiple reasons why it is that I believe that that's Tyler Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
not just because of blurry footage.
Did you have a dream? Just kidding.
No, it's because I combined multitudes
sorry.
of evidences.
Okay, so let's address those multitude of evidences. The first one we're working on a fact check on because I do not ever remember him tweeting. That's me in the staircase. I mean, or
Well, he didn't tweet
texting,
it.
texting
Yeah.
that's me in the staircase. I think that I
I didn't say that. I said I literally didn't. What I said is that he texted over, "You'll be able to see me in footage at UVU," and I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
Yeah, could we get a fact check on that?
You
The
can find
second
it.
thing you said was Lance's testimony, and actually what Lance says is, I'm not 100%.
I agree.
But in terms of what he wears, again, pointing out the absurdity,
Mm-hmm.
he wears Converses, he wears sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
If his boyfriend is not 100%, I'd like to understand why Andrew Wilson is overwhelmed by it. That's what I'm trying to get to. And lastly, I would like to remind you that Lance's statement would not be permitted. This was a huge part of the preliminary hearing,
Mm-hmm.
that they were leading. All the questions that were asked of him were leading, so they would be struck down at the actual trial.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I would like to remind you that he got use immunity for that. Use immunity.
I understand.
Which means like
That happens, by the way, all the time in these
and
cases.
I'm wondering why it particularly happened for Lance in this testimony. And I would also like to point out that something that's remarkable about this, again, leaning to my perspective, that Lance has a lot more, which I have said many times, Lance has a lot more involvement than the feds are letting us know. I think more
Nobody
is going to come
disputes
out
that either.
because they interviewed him on September 11th. And then for whatever reason, just ahead of what was supposed to be slated as the preliminary hearing, which was initially supposed to be in May, they bring him back to do this interview, which in my opinion should have never been allowed. And I actually agree with the defense that it's a violation of his constitutional rights not to allow them to have cross-examined him. But I understand Utah 1102, do what you do. It's all hearsay. But to allow it in that way for him to just be able to also have use immunity, knowing that he's not going to get in trouble. He could literally get up there and lie about anything and he's not going to get in trouble because the use immunity was given to him in April, I believe. April 28th is when they gave that testimony to the defense. I think they shot it in like April 20th of 2026. That is not compelling to me for somebody who has use immunity to give a testimony and to say, I'm not really sure, but definitely like he wears jeans and stuff.
That's not what he said.
He did. Actually, you can get a fact check on that.
Yeah, that's
Skyler,
not,
I think
he
you
said
pulled
much
it up
more
if you
than
want
that.
to. So a couple things we have. We have Rule 801, Tyler's messages, that says it's not hearsay. But first, go to what Candace is asking about. Skylar, I think you have it. You just text me if you want to pull it up. You said you have the text. If we can put that up on the screen. Thank you.
It was me. Look at the pictures from the surveillance footage. It was me. Okay. I literally said to you, it's not an oof. I said I didn't remember this, and I'm happy to have a fact check on that. Okay. I didn't call for the fact check saying you're wrong. I literally said I don't remember that from
Well,
the
I'm
time
just saying to you, like, I'm trying to be concise for you.
And then also bring the 801 that you just said. What was the other one?
Yep, the 801. Tyler messages saying it's not hearsay, if you have that as well. There you go.
Wait, what are we saying is not hearsay? I thought
Statements
you
that
said
are
the
not
messages.
hearsay. A statement that meets the following conditions is not hearsay.
It was hearsay. They said it in the trial.
Hang on.
Okay.
Okay. Is consistent with the declarant's testimony and the declarant denies having made the statement or has forgotten, or is consistent with the declarant's testimony and is offered to rebut the express implied charge that the declarant recently fabricated or acted in recent improper influence or motive in testifying. So then, wouldn't that mean that a bunch of this wasn't hearsay?
So the issue with his
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Would that mean that a bunch of this wasn't hearsay?
So the opposing party, which down the line,
Hey, what's
like
up,
I said, we
Kesh?
talked about this for about an hour and a half, and they discussed how if Lance was in court and he was giving his first party, giving his testimony as the opposing party, whatever, all this would be fine. They had an issue with how the questions were being asked and that they were not allowed to cross-examine him. So that is why his video testimony would not be accepted in the main trial. And what I said to you is this entire preliminary hearing is under Utah's 1102.
And if there's anybody watching right now that is not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel right now and give the live a like. Do it now.
So they are allowed to just use hearsay. And
No,
so the
you didn't
judge,
say
when
that.
he
You said most of it was hearsay, actually.
Yeah,
The
it was.
overwhelming majority.
Well, I mean, and that's I'm leaning now into my opinion that some scientific aspects, which they kept asserting, like the federal rule 403 or 402, some of those parts were quite
Sounds like
scientific.
you're backtracking quite a bit.
No, I'm not backtracking at all. What do you feel like let me help you. Where do you feel like I'm backtracking? It literally was done under Utah's 1102.
Yeah, nobody disputed that.
Okay.
What the dispute was is whether or not most of it was overwhelmingly hearsay.
Yes,
is that the case?
it was. Yes, that's a
Okay.
fact. I'm not backtracking on
And
that
what
at
are
all.
the things
How
that-
many times did you? I mean,
Yeah.
if you watch the preliminary hearing, it's like they constantly. I'm 1102, 1102, 1102, 1102,
That's true.
1102, and the reason for that is because it's allowed. I'm not saying it's illegal. It's allowed at this stage, but I'm just reminding you that when you're going to sit across from someone and your claim is going to be, "Where is your hard evidence? This is what I heard, and I agree with what I'm watching." You are watching the state put on a hearsay
Yes.
preliminary
There's gonna be
hearing,
hearsay. True.
and all of those things are not going to be allowed, right? Even when they got into witness statements and things of that nature. There's a reason why they swear you in and they say, "You swear to tell the truth."
So I haven't really concretely fucking sided with either one yet. I think that everything that Candace is saying is completely irrelevant and should be taken seriously and should be examined. But I mean, I can't say anything for sure yet. I mean, that's why this debate is so important.
Truth, the whole truth. Did you, write
These
the
things are not in
statement?
dispute.
So it's the overwhelming majority of what you saw was hearsay because other people were representing other people's statements. They were saying they had conversations.
I'm definitely not gonna just I'm definitely not just gonna trust Israel. I mean, can't make no decisions based on that.
We don't know where it came from. All allowed at this stage. Okay, but it's hearsay. So it
But
doesn't.
even a lot of that stuff may not fall under hearsay, under what we just read, right?
But the evidence that you're speaking about, like when you're just when you say that we're going off vibes, you don't know Tyler Robinson. Okay, His boyfriend is not 100% it was him. So I'm going back to your points that you made that this was overwhelming evidence for you. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, overwhelming just means
You can't
convincing.
consider another option that there
Well,
could have been
hang
another
on. Do you
white
agree
guy
with me
wearing
that I-
Converses on campus?
Yeah, do you agree with me that I said that what overwhelming means to me is that it's just very convincing to me?
Yeah, and I find it to be completely unconvincing.
fair. I
Because
understand that
I
you
looked
can
at those
find-
blurry photos
Yeah.
that they presented and said,
Mhm.
your statement on right now is that
Yeah.
he's wearing Converses and he also that's just
But
crazy
these
to
aren't
me.
the evidences that I find the most convincing.
Well, you said that in your Twitter.
That's not the only thing I've ever said on my Twitter about this case.
Right, but the question that was asked of you was pretty direct.
Yeah.
Right? What did you
and
find
this
to
is
be?
not an exhaustive list of all the
Well,
things that
that's
I
not
find
what you said in the
convincing.
tweet. You can tweet longer too. It's not like we're limited now to 240
So,
characters.
so
anymore.
wait, so anything that I
Yeah, but the suspicion though is I think the ultimate suspicion is that Israel could have had something to do with it. If I'm understanding from everything I've heard so far, not in this debate, just of all the talk about it.
tweet and all other tweets that I've ever made are now excluded because I used the word overwhelming in this one.
Well, they
even
wanted-
though all of this information I've said so publicly over and over and over again is what informs my position for why I'm convinced on the case. That's bizarre to me.
I feel like this is Andrew versus Andrew. Somebody asked you a question. What are the points that you find to be the most overwhelming? And you answered.
You mean
and-
from that particular day of the hearing that I was responding to?
Okay, this is something you find to be more overwhelming? Let me ask you that question.
yes,
okay,
that's what
do
I
you?
was saying,
Okay, go ahead.
yes.
Go on. What do you find to be more overwhelming?
Yeah.
Can
So
we do this? Do we want to get into it, or do we want to do a quick ad?
Yeah,
break?
Fran, that is.
Are you guys good to
that
keep
is pretty
going,
wild.
or
I'm fine. Keep going, but we can
would
also.
you like to take
yeah.
a quick break?
doesn't
or
matter to me either
If
way.
we're going into a different topic, that may be another 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I don't want to stop you
Yeah,
guys
let's
in the middle
end
of it. So
it
what
on
would you
what
like
you
to
find
do?
to be more overwhelming.
Yeah. So for me, it's the confessions, the text messages, all of that is what I consider to be, from my opinion, that's the most convincing for me.
Okay, we should discuss the text message confessions when we get back, if you'd like to.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Folks, we're going to take a quick ad break. We will be back in 3.5 minutes. Thank you.
All right, you guys, for nearly 2,000 years, Christians have lived continuously in a small village just outside of Jerusalem called.
Function and luxury. We had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
We're back. By the way, just an FYI for those of you that are watching The Crucible, there's 30,000 concurrent they're watching. Support Andrew Wilson. That's your fans of his. Click that subscribe button and helps him grow his business. If you're watching Candace, I think there's 225 to 250,000 concurrent right now. We'd like to see that 300, 400,000 number on there. Click that button as well to subscribe and share it with your friends and family. And if you're watching it on PBD Podcast, do the same there as well. This allows us to have more conversations like this. The mainstream media hates the fact that we're having these conversations right now. Just so you know, they want to control it. This is free for all. This is what's best for the audience. That's why we like freedom of speech. Having said that, let's go back.
Well, the thing, Fran, if there is some sort of big time conspiracy, I mean, things could be people could be trying to cover things up and stuff like that. And I think she's trying to expose. Now, she could be well, actually, she did say she is for certain that, the Robinson dude did not assassinate Charlie Kirk. But, I mean, I'm all for everything being examined thoroughly.
Back into the text conversation you were having, right?
Okay.
She only has
and then we're
dreams.
going to the cross-examination stuff in about 30 minutes.
Okay, that sounds fair. Okay, so yeah, I used basically three pillars for the totality of the evidence. Okay, so if you want to know exactly what those three pillars are, this is going to be the testimony with the text messages and the confessions. This is going to be the physical evidence, and this is going to be the totality of the summary of the case. Okay, so right now we're focusing on one of these pillars in my defense, which is fine. I understand that I have to defend my claims as well. So when we're talking about the messages themselves, they seem totally valid. I have no idea why they wouldn't be valid. And I have not heard any good explanation for why it is that these messages should even be questioned. The defense hasn't questioned them, as far as I'm aware. Nobody has actually questioned that these messages came from Robinson to date, except perhaps you and other people who are kind of in that camp. But why should I question these exactly? I'm not sure.
Okay, so first let's just go over legally what the point is of a probative hearing. The defense is not putting on, they're not there to say or to argue or to defend themselves at all. They have to address what is being presented by the state. Okay, so they're not here to then say, let me give you an explanation for these text messages.
Agreed.
The relevant portion of what the defense did do was actually before we got to the preliminary hearing. I had mentioned that it was initially supposed to be scheduled for some time in May. They asked for an extension. That reading through those filings of why they were requesting an extension and why I actually believe their extension should have been granted, because they did not receive discovery on their text messages. That was one of the reasons. There were many reasons why they wanted to have an extension, but this was crucial, right? So forget just the general sense that these messages feel off. And yes, you are allowed to have an intuition. You are allowed to have a sense and just go, this is very weird. We're being told this kid had like above a 4.0, Tyler Robinson. He wanted to get away. I mean, the text messages almost run head to head with themselves. Like he wanted to get away with it. So he thought the best thing to do would be to text a full confession of what he did, down to what I didn't even remember, saying, yeah, and that's also me in the surveillance footage. It felt a little too on the nose. People have common sense. You just don't text message. But then we're also supposed to believe that he put a note under because and burn this and get rid of the evidence. But don't worry about that because I'm about to text you a full confession. That it felt off. It felt weird off the bat. The manner in which they were texting, we're told he's like a gamer who's using a Dremel to carve expressions, catch fascist. But then suddenly he's writing like a 1700
Also, as a Helldivers
novelist.
player, he did actually get the 500K code correct.
Who is Jason Arde?
Yeah, I'm not a gamer, so we'll say that if we start debating that, you'll be way over my head.
But yes,
yes. But my point being
yeah.
is just that, just first, it's a general sense of why people had a reaction to these messages that seemed like they were written by Jane Austen rather than like a kid who games and writes catch.
Yeah, but do you see how
fascist.
that's intuition?
That is, I am. I just said that. I said just parking aside the intuition of just something feels wrong here, which you should follow your intuition. You should actually do that. If you say the COVID vaccine is running out, feels like it's coming out too fast, and there's too many celebrities telling me to do it, I'd like to take a pause. That's good. That is, you are allowed to do that. I believe in intuition.
But hang on. Let me
aside,
respond a little bit here because you've been going for a minute. Let me at least respond to a little bit of this. So the first thing is like when people bring up the COVID vaccine, not trusting the COVID vaccine en masse was the science. That wasn't just intuition. That was the science. There was tons of competing science. Now they try to suppress it. That's true. But there was tons of competing science for why you shouldn't take a risky mRNA vaccine and masks and things like this.
Kept telling us was
now, when you're talking about intuition, though, when you say trust your intuition, I'm actually giving a different message. You actually should be very wary about trusting just your intuition. It is true that intuition can be useful, but it has to be tempered with logic, reason, explanatory power, and evidence, not just intuition.
That's why we're parking it aside. Intuition is the first step. Something feels off, right?
Okay.
That was my first step with COVID. I don't like the way it's being pushed. It shouldn't require a celebrity campaign, by the way. Another element of that is why people don't feel good about the Charlie thing. Why do we have so many influencers saying things? It's over. Why are you guys all using the same adjective? Can you switch it up? I'm overwhelmed. Like, chill. Like, you could say, I found some
kind
parts
like
compelling. I think this should go.
Like
I found some parts compelling. Maybe we should, see at the trial. That would be
Don't you think Fed slop's a buzzword for the counter industry?
But everyone on the same day of watching this trial, which was, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So I can confirm that Jeffrey is not a troll. He is speaking on what he does believe, for sure. And look, here's the thing. For those who are watching who are unclear on my stance, I am suspicious. I don't know anything, of course, but I do have suspicions that there was something funny, that there could have been something that we are not being told about the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I look a lot at the history of the relationship between Charlie Kirk and Israel and how he's always been very pro-Israel, but in his very recent months before the assassination, he started questioning Israel and started trying to hold them accountable for some of the things that he'd seen that he did not agree with. and he started getting a lot of backlash for that. And uh, Israel did try to pay him kind of like lobby money. Uh, several, I want to say it was like 150 million, but I could be wrong about that number. Several millions of dollars, kind of like lobby money, to kind of continue his pro-Israel message, and he did decline that money. So there is evidence that I have seen that validates suspicions. I'll put it to you like that. Do I know anything? I can't say for sure that I know anything. No, absolutely not. And yeah, like to be clear, uh, I'm not like, this is kind of what's made me kind of pull away a lot of the relationship between the United States and Israel, and just a lot of things I don't agree with. Just so everybody's kind of clear on my stance. Um, I am a conservative. I've been, a long time Republican voter and stuff like that, and I've kind of pulled away from like the Republican Party, and now I'm kind of like in a position of like a non-voter. I just kind of don't have any faith in any particular party anymore. I've pulled my support away from Donald Trump. Of course, I voted for Donald Trump every chance I got. I just my faith in politicians and the Republican Party. Of course, I never really had faith in the Democratic Party, but so yes, I that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm definitely one of those people that is very skeptical of Israel, and I think there's a lot of there's just a lot of things there that I don't like, with Israel AIPAC and stuff like that. So that's why whenever I hear claims like Candace is making, I want to acknowledge it. I want to hear it. I'm not saying anything concrete. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I'm just a dude.
Not overwhelming at all. Nobody came in medium, right? No one came in like there were some interesting aspects. This was a little suspect. But I do think it's enough to go to trial. They all came in like they were passing away and we're going to die from being overwhelmed.
Well, they're trusting their intuition.
Okay. Well, actually, in that scenario, they're looking at the preliminary hearing and have a reaction to it. It wasn't their intuition. But like I said, parking aside.
No, see, I have a very particular opinion about that. I think voting does more damage than not voting anymore. I think when you're continuously voting in a country that you basically need a freaking revolution in, I think voting doesn't do anything but contribute to a corrupt system. So I'm not for voting. I don't do the voting thing. I think it's, like I said, I think it's actually more detrimental than a good thing.
Just getting to the substance, parking that aside. Parking aside, just a general intuition that sometimes might be second messages. Then we look at the filings, which came from the defense, and they were requesting an extension saying, we have gone to the prosecution and we have requested all of this stuff in discovery. Yes, you are saying that you took Lance's phone, okay, and that you collected his phone on September 11th and that you sent it off or whatever. You took a picture of the text messages, and we are being given these text messages to review. Crucially, Kathy Nestor said, I have not even been given access to my client's phone during this hearing. She said, I haven't even been given access to my client's phone. She can't tell you, as a part of their discovery request, it's not enough to say to me, Candace, I just got a text message from Candace, and I say I didn't send.
So no, I haven't watched her episodes. Yeah, well, it's still real early in the debate, so there's still. This is like a fucking. So we're an hour and a half in. This is a 4-hour long freaking video right here. What's POG and think is. Oh, Canada, huh? Yeah. Shit. Sorry to hear that, bro.
Send that text message. Maybe that's what our client's saying. We don't know because we're not at the trial, right? Maybe he didn't send those messages. Could there be someone who logged into his Discord? Could there be someone who logged in to his Apple George could be sending text messages right now. We are married. He has every login that I have. And remember, he's up for a death sentence. So if I'm able to sow reasonable doubt with common sense, he may come during the trial, and when they actually have to address these points, say, I did not write those messages. I was here. Lance, my boyfriend, was logged into my phone, logged into my Apple ID and my iCloud sending messages. I know that we have the capability because my husband does it. He has the capability to send messages from my phone. It is not convincing to the public when, for whatever reason, the FBI would not, FBI combined with the SBI, it was not the prosecution's fault. They made that clear during that hearing, would not allow them that discovery request to be able to see where did that message come from. Because you're saying my client was here, right? I want to know if that message actually was generated from his iPhone when he was waiting to retrieve his, rifle, hoping that the pooch doesn't have a bad sniffer, like just weird messages. I want to make sure that, yes, it was actually him. He was holding his phone, and his boyfriend didn't just log in to his computer when he was home. Lance was his boyfriend. That is a crucial fact here. That discovery was not met by the time we got to preliminary hearing. So I remain unconvinced by these text messages. Just as you feel convinced by them, I feel unconvinced by them.
Okay. So then the idea here is the reason that you don't think that these are valid text messages, and you don't, right?
It has not been proven that these messages are valid, and they don't sound valid to me. I don't think anyone, even if someone was selling like a, I don't know, pot on the corner, would be smarter than to write a full-fledged confession. He even writes, I thought I would get away with it, and I was hoping never to tell you until old age. And then we're being told that he wanted to commit suicide. And okay, but he just said he wanted to get away with it, but he's not smart enough to, I don't know, maybe not text it's such a confession like we've never seen. I think this would be like the first time ever somebody has started
What's wrong, Fran?
to finish written an entire, I'm in the surveillance footage and I'm here and I'm wearing my Converse, I'm being a little facetious here, but it was a little ridiculous. It didn't pass a sniff test for me.
You have kids and you love them more than anything.
I do.
If it was the case that you thought that your kid was innocent, wouldn't you be out telling everybody and their brother that you thought that they were innocent? And also, wouldn't you maybe recant and say, hey, he didn't actually confess to me. He didn't actually, none of this happened the way that the state is presenting it. What would have prevented the parents from testifying?
Well, two things I can answer that. And if you watch my show, I keep telling you it's not vibes. So right after the shooting happened, Lance Twiggs, the FBI put him into a safe house they paid for. They went to the parents as well, to Matt Robinson and Amber, basically said, your life's at risk. There could be somebody who jumps up and wants to avenge Charlie Kirk. And, we're going to watch you. And they went into a federal safe house. What happened next is that they started thinking that the feds were maybe gonna, maybe not as honest as they thought. And
how do you know any of that?
So you gotta watch the show, right?
Yeah, no. How do you know that?
I had a source within the Robinson family.
You have a source, an anonymous source, of course. So there's no way for us to verify that what you're saying right now is actually even true.
Do you find it to be reliable hearsay?
No, I don't find it to be reliable at all. It's just a source.
I'm just doing what the prosecution
What you're doing
did.
is a cool story.
It's not cool. Well, you must have hated watching the preliminary hearing.
You're giving us a cool story.
Wait,
you're saying that according to your sources, that the reason that the parents haven't recanted any of this.
Recanted what? They have no statement from the parents.
Wait, I just want to make sure that if it was the case that was being reported in mainstream media, that your father came to you and said, hey, is this you? What's going on here? And then he and one of his buddies took you in where you turned yourself in. You wouldn't go out and be like, no, that's not what happened.
That isn't what happened, though. You're just wrong on this.
Okay. Maybe I'm paraphrasing. What am I wrong on?
So what is sorry, just so I'm clear, where is your evidence that the parents turned him in?
Well, no. I didn't say that.
You said there's the mainstream media?
I said with a sheriff friend.
Yes.
But the father did confront him.
The father confronted what?
Tyler Robinson.
And where did you learn this? That the Tyler
confronted him?
Well,
that's part of the official documents. Our fact check.
So yeah, Pokemon Dad, I hear you. I do give Candace a little bit of credit because I think a lot of people don't stop to really think about like the entire, if you want to call it an investigation, she would probably call it like an investigation that she's doing. She's kind of doing it like publicly and making content on it like as she's doing it. And it's like she's like kind of like right out here in the open to where like everybody can kind of criticize her like why she's doing it, which is fair. That's the name of the game. But that does kind of seem challenging to me. Uh, so I mean, I fuck, I don't know if I'd want to do an investigation like that. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, I mean, you gotta have something fucking definitive, and that's really what I'm kind of looking for is like that one thing that just really fucking seals the deal. You know, you gotta have that, man.
Hackers can pull that up.
That,
But yes.
But I'm saying, but when you say official documents, do you mean you saw this on CNN or you saw this play out in the hearing?
No, this was one of the things that I went through and fact checked pre-debate.
Are you talking about like the charging documents?
I think it was it could have been in the charging documents, but I do, we can pull them
Oh,
up.
did you watch this already,
And-
Pokemon Dad?
Yes. Are you disputing this?
I'm,
Do we have
Cover
that
up,
in the back to
cover
pull it up? 'Cause
I
do
can
know-
already tell you what you're talking about, the charging documents, because
Okay,
this
go
is
ahead.
where we had to figure out where this story came from, because everyone was operating under the assumption that Matt Robinson turned him in. Until we got to the preliminary hearing and we understood, like I said, even for that, when you are charging someone, you can use hearsay. It's all probative, right?
Sure.
Nothing. So they didn't have statements. It's not like Matt Robinson, even though he was interviewed that night. Amber Robinson was interviewed that night by a Fed, separate rooms. Tyler Robinson was interviewed by a Fed. They did not produce statements saying, my son did this. I believe my son did this. But what happened was they did interviews, but also the crucial person here who you just brought up is Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell is the biggest unknown in this entire case. Everyone keeps saying they heard from Mike Mitchell this, they heard from Mike Mitchell that. So when the person wrote up the report that night, and it was Brian Davis who wrote up what became the charging document, he after they transported Tyler Robinson from the Washington Sheriff's County office up to, I think it's Salt Lake City. I think it was 4 a.m. in the morning that they got up there. He then writes the what becomes a charging document. So he's basically saying, we all spoke to a bunch of people and here's the information that we got, right? We've not seen that. So it could have come from Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell could be saying,
I don't know how this negates the point, though.
it
Why wouldn't
truly
the
negates
parents?
the point, because you don't have a statement from the parents.
Yeah,
you are going.
Why wouldn't they just correct the
It's not correcting. That doesn't
misinformation?
negate the point. The point is that we now got the preliminary hearing. If the parents were the ones who said, I'm turning my son in.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this whole thing over again. There's like I keep getting sidetracked, and I'm like missing a lot of details that they're covering, and I haven't really paid that close attention to well, I haven't really dove deep into this particular topic yet, to be honest with you.
Because he's
I
guilty.
didn't say they turned him in.
I think you're talking about the over. You said it's been the narrative. Everybody's known this. The narrative
Not like
initially, which
some
I think
people
you agree
obviously
with, was
have.
that Matt Robinson knew his kid was guilty and turned him into the police station. What actually happened in terms of Sheriff Brooksby, who was present there and gave a press conference, what happened was this Mike Mitchell character essentially peer pressured him, and we can get a fact check on this. We can find Sheriff Brooksby's press conference, and he said, they know it's you, and you're going to come in.
I think y'all are more
peaceably,
entertaining in the
or
chat
people are going to be
than
banging down your
the
door.
debate.
He was a undercover cop, which I don't like that. I don't know what he did undercover. It's very hard to find anything about Mike Mitchell, but he worked with them for 20 plus years, the police officers. The reason why Tyler Robinson knew him was because he lived nearby and he was also his Boy Scout
How does
leader.
this negate that the parents could write this second? And by the way, if you had
I'm
the
going to
evidence,
address that point. I'm just saying that your first point, which is that the parents did this.
Yeah.
We don't know that the
I
parents.
didn't say that they did ever. Never
Well,
happened.
you're quoting the parents as having said. You said that Matt Robinson said that his kid was. You say involved. I don't want to misquote you.
Confronted him about
Confronted him.
Yes.
And I'm telling you that we have not seen any evidence that that is true.
We can fact check that.
Okay.
Because we do have evidence. That
And
that's
I'm saying
true.
it's the charging doc, which could have been derived from a statement Mike Mitchell said.
Two things I have ready in the back. One
Cool.
is the charging doc, and the
Yes.
other one is a video of Kathy Nestor saying she hasn't seen Tyler's phone.
Okay, we can
Okay,
run
which
Kathy to
one
go
would you
back.
wanna
And and
See
then
first.
just to
You
go
wanna see
backwards
Kathy
to
first?
Kathy first in court saying she didn't get her client's phone. Yeah, and then I think
Shit,
we'll go
my
to
bad.
the
Fucking mic was off. Okay, so Pokemon Dad. So they probably covered it already, but I might have missed it. So what is an actual fact that Candace has denied?
if you're okay with that.
Thing not in dispute. These are all things that I'm not even disputing.
Okay, so we don't
And
have to show it.
We never get to the thing that I am disputing.
Well, I was just providing an answer. We were coming back in from a break because you were talking about the text messages as something that you felt was concrete. So it was just my rebuttal to you
Mm-hmm.
that it's not concrete because they haven't had a chance to actually answer that. And she didn't even get to see your client's phone. So that's effectively, again, the state saying these messages are real. you don't get the discovery on these messages just yet. She will during trial. They will actually get
Don't you
discovery on
think
the
that
messages.
would make their case fall apart if it was the case that they weren't able to actually pull the data off the text messages? Do you think the prosecution would go to court with fabricated text messages?
It's called winners and losers. They may not be fabricated, but by the way, as what they are saying, like I said, if there was somebody logged into his phone, they may not be fabricated. That's the point.
So let's get to the
they just could be somebody else.
The parents fact check. That
Yeah,
was
so
the
I
other
was
one,
saying,
right?
I believe what you're talking about was derived from the charging doc, which was signed off by Brian Davis.
Let's pull it up.
Let's see if that's correct.
What if you could make a song using only your voice? Let's start with the drums. I'm gonna hit drums.
What are we looking at
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, I'm sorry.
Can you zoom in a
here? Is
little
this
bit?
the charging
I
doc?
can't see it. Robinson's
yes.
father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle that police suspected the shooter used matched the rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle, which makes sense with the text messages. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson. Robinson implied he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home.
Yes. So this is proving my point. This is from the charging document, correct? Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is that 3 people got interviewed on that night. Mike Mitchell got interviewed, Amber Robinson got interviewed, and Matt Robinson got interviewed. Of the 3 of them, only one of them actually wrote a statement, which was referred to in this preliminary trial. He came in, I believe, in March, Mike Mitchell, and he wrote a statement, which I find to be very shady that they decided to bring.
But why aren't the parents disputing that?
No. Well, first off,
That's the question
First
I've
off,
been
the
asking.
parents are not going to ever play in court. Play to the cameras in court when they have a legal team that is going to be advising them not to speak to the court because your son could go to prison
But they're
forever.
playing to somebody else who's your source?
I'm not going to address that.
They're
'cause
playing to
I don't-
someone
I-
else
I don't
who's your
think- I don't
source,
think
but
it's-
won't go publicly tell the media this is not true?
Well, what I did not say to you that I just said I have a source, so I want to be very clear and take it from somebody who is involved and permanently sued. When I have to take my lawyer's advice, I mean, there's so many things that I want to respond to when people are speaking about.
Yeah, but it's bizarre that they would utilize a source which would get the information to you, but wouldn't just go to the media and be like, actually, that's all wrong.
I am telling you that if you would nary find a lawyer who would advise you to go to the media.
Oh,
and speak.
this mother.
Especially when your son
If I thought that my kid
was up for death.
If I thought that my kid was in any.
So yeah, Jeffrey Forrester, I have known him for a long time. He is legit. He's passionate in his beliefs, to say the least. But yeah, he's legit.
Any way, shape, or form.
And he is a good dude. Y'all try to get along.
You couldn't shut me up. Or my wife, she would be like, that's not true. That's ridiculous. There's no possible. That never happened. These people are lying through their teeth. They'd be public whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's for you and your wife. But when a judge issues a gag order in a case and your son is up for death, and your lawyers could be advising you that if you say anything, you could blow the case, you would have a more responsible consideration.
I see.
And we're speaking opinion here. You're like, well, I wouldn't care. I'd violate it, and I'd violate the judge's orders and see
But
what would happen.
if you have a source, it seems like they're violating it with them.
I'm not speaking to a source, but what I am saying to you is speaking just relevant to what this is. We have not seen any proof that statement that is included in this charging document. I think it is highly likely on the basis of the preliminary hearing that all came from Mike Mitchell. And Mike Mitchell would be a part. He's
Based
saying,
on the statements of the,
it's
the
him
parents.
saying the parents told me this. The parents could dispute that. That's going to come down the line, right? They're going to be able to seat the parents. I will say this, putting together context clues. If the state had it on, over 100% certainty that Matt Robinson and Amber Robinson said it, a 5-day preliminary hearing would be a good time to say we have enough evidence, and I can tell you why Matt Robinson made this statement, and here is his statement that he signed. That would have been a good time to present that evidence.
That would also be a good time for the defense to say that's just totally fabricated.
No, it's not. It's the wrong time.
Why couldn't they?
That is completely the wrong time.
Why couldn't they?
Because what they're doing is they already said they didn't receive discovery. They literally can't. They literally can't because they can't. They did not
You're
receive
saying that
discovery.
they didn't receive that information?
No, they just received the text messages. But in order to
That's not the text messages.
The probative information.
Yeah, we're talking about the information that we just reviewed. That's not the text messages.
They never presented it. The state never put it on.
Yeah, they didn't. The defense could easily still have presented this. Yeah.
No.
They could have said they're
No,
they're not allowed to. Are you sure?
In a preliminary hearing,
Yeah.
the defense is engaging with whatever evidence the state decides to put on. They did not put this on as evidence. Brian Davis was up there.
So they're not allowed to present anything?
they're responding to the state's
I'm asking,
evidence.
are they allowed to present anything?
They are allowed to say,
Like if there was a conspiracy that they could prove right then and there, would they present that
Is
in
that-
one of these hearings?
Is the
No, it
desktop
wouldn't be the
audio
right time for
muted
that.
I
right there?
disagree. I think
It's
that
not
they,
disagreement.
I think
You're-
that they not only could do it, but they would do it. In fact, when I talked in depth with my attorney, they said that's exactly, if you had actual evidence that there was fabrications by the feds, that's exactly when you would introduce that.
so when in the document that they filed, yes,
I mean, you guys can hear the video being played, right? I was just looking at my settings on my on OBS, and it looks like it's saying the desktop audio is muted, but that can't be so.
yesterday or a couple of days ago,
Oh,
the
okay.
appropriate, like what you're doing at this stage of the hearing is the state is saying we have enough evidence
Yep.
that we think this needs to go forth to trial. Hence the reason that there's this extraordinary, we allow hearsay because it doesn't really need to be perfect. It can be enough that we feel like we can move forward, right? And okay, I disagree with that in general when somebody's rotting in prison, but whatever. The next phase is for them to meet in court, for the defense to essentially present an argument to the state that says, we find this filing to be defective in and of itself. We don't even have to defend ourselves because you, the state, have enough, you know what the laws are on the books, and this filing is defective, and you should get rid of these charges because they don't make sense based on what you can decide based on a law on the books. So then that's why they then file the dismissal, right? So in the dismissal, what they're doing is they are engaging, and this is what was widely misinterpreted.
Well, yeah, they're engaging as though as it's a hypothetical. If this is
Yes.
hypothetically
Yes.
true, then
So they're
X.
saying all of
Yeah,
these
but
charges.
I'm not disputing any of that.
So that's what you're asking why you're saying, could they
no,
just
what
put
I'm
out-
asking specifically is like, who could shut parents up who are like, no way, there's no possible, this never happened, this is ridiculous. They would be shouting it on CNN. They would be shouting it from the rooftops. They would be losing their mind.
If y'all want to do your boy a real solid, for one thing, keep hitting that like button and share this live right now with anybody that you think might be interested in fucking watching this live. Fucking copy, paste the link, send it out, and definitely encourage somebody to subscribe.
And you're like, nope, the gag order would be enough to keep them quiet. Not enough for them to.
And I am on TikTok, Instagram, and X. If you just fucking search up Dirty Rotten People.
Talk to your source, but enough to keep them quiet. I think that that's quite ridiculous. But I'll even concede this whole point to you. Let's just say maybe this was misconstrued, right? There's a little bit of reason to doubt it because we're waiting for the evidence for trial. If that's the case, then why not take the same standard for the evidence that you present? You're just waiting for trial.
Well, you didn't do that. That's
Wait
the
a
reason
second.
we're here.
Wait a second. I just want to make sure that I got this right. That's your argument to me, right?
My argument to you is what?
Your argument to me
Uh-huh.
is that, hey, wait a second, Andrew. There's not enough here that convinces me, right?
Well, that's actually my rebuttal to you, is that you are saying, why are people engaging in what you term to be conspiracy theories?
No.
I term it to be thinking. They're just thinking because they're recognizing there are a lot of holes in these stories and that this is not strong evidence, right? This is the reason they're doing it. I'm explaining to you, this is the reason that they're doing it. I'm addressing what you view to be
Yeah.
overwhelming evidence. And by the way, I want to be clear,
That which
what
convinces
you're,
me.
well, but thus far,
And this is just like,
every
that's-
point
that
that you've
doesn't
brought
convince
up,
you.
every point that you've brought up, did you feel like this is beyond a reasonable doubt? I mean, you realize
remember what I said in my
he's
opening.
going to be.
It's not beyond a reasonable doubt.
Mhm.
It's just what I find convincing is what I find overwhelming.
So why are you so upset when people say they don't find it
if
convincing?
that was the limitation of the claims that you made, if it was just, wait a second, there's a little bit of problems. There's some problems in this case that I have questions for that I want answers to. Nobody have a problem, actually. Least of all me. I would be the least likely person to have an issue with you, any of your fans, anybody saying. In fact, I've had tons of Discord calls about this. My position's always been clear. Of course, conspiracies exist. Some of them have way better evidence than others, but I've seen them myself. I know conspiracy. In fact, the federal government has hundreds of thousands of laws about conspiracies. They see them everywhere. We both know this, right? That's never what the problem is. The problem is when you make claims outside of, well, wait a second. I'm just questioning evidence here. I'm just questioning what the state's case is here. I'm just asking questions. It's when you make claims outside of that, where you claim that there's good evidence or good standards you should believe because, and then it turns out that it's all nonsense or it's wackadoo stuff or it makes no sense. And when we have a chance to cross-examine your evidence that you've presented, I'm going to show a lot of that. A lot of this conjecture that's based on literally nothing. that leads from no inferences whatsoever. Like you couldn't even infer it logically. That's the problem. The problem has never been whether or not you just said, you know, there's not enough in this case so far until we get to the trial. I remain unconvinced. I'm sure there's tons of people who remain unconvinced yet until we get to the trial. I think that's fine. I think it's fine. There's people who are convinced too. That's never been my problem. My problem is the claims which are external to that.
Okay. I'm not sure I really care if you have a problem with what I think in my own spare time. I don't understand this like lecture that you just gave. But beyond that, what I'm saying is that
What
the state
lecture?
is allowed to use.
I didn't
this is
lecture
what
you.
this is what my problem is. You guys are not like, yeah, you guys think while it's still legal. You can. You are allowed to do that. So, but anyway,
Nobody said you can't.
going back to you saying I wouldn't have a problem. I think I just demonstrated pretty thoroughly that what you claim that you have a problem with is exactly what the state is engaged in at this stage. So it just doesn't make sense.
That's not the case. In fact,
So
the
if people
thing
look
is,
and they say,
the thing
I'm
is
looking at
funny-
the gun and I see and I'm inferring this, and someone else says, I'm looking at the gun evidence and I'm inferring that, they're both doing the exact same thing.
They're not.
You're just saying, I want to do it for the state.
That's propositionally false. and
That
I'll
is not
explain, I'll
propositionally
explain
false.
exactly how. It is the case that every proposition is going to have a true or false conclusion, period. That's just logic, right? It's the law of excluded middle. All propositions are going to be true or they're going to be false. When we get into when we're making inferences based on propositions. We can actually come to true conclusions with false premises inside of a proposition. In fact, what we're talking about here is not whether or not you feel that you're convinced by this evidence.
But you felt like you were convinced.
Right? Sure. But here's the thing. When you ask me my reason, Andrew, why are you convinced by this? I can give you my reasons why I'm convinced by it, why it seems reasonable and rational to me to be convinced. You could even say, but Andrew, I'm just not convinced by it. If that was the limitation of your claims, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. That's why I wanted to have the conversation, in fact, was so that we could move into your actual claims that you've made, which transcend the idea of I'm just asking questions.
Before we get into that, your team has one thing they want to show before you go into that.
Okay.
So if you want to pull that up, this is the prosecution filing showing defense had full discovery by April 1st.
Oof.
They did not. That's not true.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
To date, the state's prosecutors have disclosed all evidence that is presently and reasonably available to them as required under Rule 16, Utah R Criminal, to be more precise, as of April 1st.
Yeah, that was not 100%. That's why they're caging that by saying what's reasonable. There was an entire, and we can pull this up. Like we should now play the Kathy Nestor clip because that's from there. So, and they were basically saying you don't need it at this stage, meaning it's not reasonable that you're asking for this when we're going into a hearing that's just going to be based on hearsay and stuff, things of that nature. But of course, by the time a trial comes, you're going to get all of the
Where
discovery
it's just show
documents.
cause.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
there.
I understand.
Okay, so that's
and I'm even fine with
yeah,
it.
that we all know. And then, by the way, just now that the hearing is over, and you can also fact check this, they now at the end of the preliminary hearing dropped like an insane amount of the discovery stuff they gave to them like the week after. You guys can give me the exact amount. I don't want to say because I don't know my I don't remember how much it was. It was an absurd amount of stuff that they gave to them right after the preliminary hearing that they had been asking for. Because that was one of the things that I kept saying on my show is as we were watching that preliminary of the preliminary, why not just give them the stuff now so they can engage in these arguments? Because I feel like you, it's like, I want to hear what they have to say about the text messages. Why can't you just give them what they're asking for so that they can actually engage you? And it didn't happen. So, but the judge ruled that it wasn't necessary at this stage. And that was the whole point of that
because it's a show
preliminary to the
cause.
preliminary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to play the Kathy video?
Well, he's saying he's not disagreeing, so I don't think we need
There's
to.
no point here.
There's no
Okay.
disagreement
All right, great.
that she said that.
Yeah.
So so I guess
Yeah.
the
I'd like to
disagreements now
also-
would move
I-
into the evidences that you have stated
Yeah.
on the record, which transcend elements of reason.
Why are we
in regards
having
to this
a
case.
transcendental conversation now? Because I mean,
Because
first,
they're all
because
related to this
your
case.
entire thing was about looking at the evidence, which never made sense to me. Again, because all of the evidence that you felt to be overwhelming was hearsay. That was bizarre to me.
You told me that I could take as much time as I
No,
wanted
you
to
can.
question you on
No,
these
but
things.
I'm just asking you just to lay the groundwork of what you're saying is
Because you've
problematic.
made
That
many,
you
many
decide that it trips
claims.
into
I'll
something
explain.
else. And I do still want to hold you for going through because we discussed the gun, we discussed your.
and you can hold me to those things, but I
yeah.
would like to get into the
and
things
we
that
should
you've
discuss
said.
the screwdriver as
So,
well.
and I'll explain exactly what the groundwork is. When you make claims which pass the idea of I'm just asking questions because the state's evidence is not convincing, I think you have to answer for those claims because they are in regards to this case. You're saying, I have a claim. It is in regards to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which is what we're talking about, not just the case of Charlie Kirk, is assassination. You should have to answer for the claims that you've made in regards to the assassination itself. You should, yeah, agreed. So if that's the case, then I would like to finally dive into some of that evidence and dive into it.
Well, just to be clear, and I'm happy to have you talk about, like I said publicly, you want to engage in some conspiracies, but I said I want to make sure that we get to the substance of our debate. The substance of our debate
is the major
is
substance.
me demonstrating that all of the quote unquote evidence that you feel that you have, which demonstrates that that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk.
You don't find convincing. I get it.
It's been invalidated by the testimony that we saw. And in your answer for when I
you haven't
explained to you that he had
invalidated
the most degraded prints was, I don't know. Okay, well, there lies my ability to process that.
It's just fine for you
Okay.
to not be convinced up to this point. All of your viewers, everybody watching, you're conceding. Nobody's giving a dispute that if all your claims ever were just up to now, the evidence that the state's given, I'm just kind of not convinced. That is not what's been happening. What's actually been happening is that you've made tons of claims in regards to this case and in regards to the Kirk assassination, which are far above and beyond, I just doubt, the state's theory.
Okay, yeah, I mean, sure.
And those are the things
I do doubt the state's theory. I also am welcome to say what I think. If you want to move into opinions, if you want to talk about Erica Kirk, if you want to talk about Turning Point USA,
I'd like to talk about all
and
of
get
it.
into it, I'm totally happy to do that. But I just want to say that, I do not feel, because I've said what's important to me is that we exhaust this topic first of our actual debate claims. I do not feel that you sufficiently have argued that the evidence is overwhelming.
Sorry.
Candace, question for you.
That
What,
Tyler
But I am
Robinson.
sorry you feel that way.
Candace, one question. What evidence do you need to see for you to say Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
That's a great question. So I actually expected in this preliminary hearing, the inverse of what he was saying is true, right? So this is now the time the state is putting on their evidence. That's the purpose of this hearing, right? The state is using hearsay, but they're also putting on their evidence. So I was just expecting some sort of a slam dunk. Like, we got him on camera taking the shot. At least we have him clear on camera. You're telling me this
Normally I
guy
would
drove
agree with
13
Andrew,
hours
but
all
Candace
around. Like,
is
we can
owning the
definitely
debate.
show you a picture that it's going to be beyond a reasonable doubt. Before we even get to the trial, people are going to see and go, oh crap, like, it was really Tyler Robinson. I was
Candace is
expecting to
fucking
at least
ferocious,
see
dude.
evidence that, because I had reported early on that
And she,
the
like,
source
I
was saying
fucking
that
missed
Tyler
way too much of this
did not
damn
step foot
debate.
on
But
campus that day. It is my perspective that he had something to do
she
with
is
something.
like,
I do
she's
believe he was
actually, as
putting,
far
like,
as
disposing clothes at this stage. At this
being
stage, I
that
do
she's
believe he was
debating with
disposing clothes. He
Andrew,
was involved somehow.
who
I find Lance
typically
to be
fucking
more
crushes everybody.
suspicious, if I'm being honest with you.
She's hanging,
And
bro.
also,
She's
like I
fucking
said,
hanging.
the use immunity that was given to Lance by the feds, the fact that the feds didn't ask him any questions, the fact that I spoke with Lance Twiggs' family, and they were like, it's very weird that the feds are not asking him more questions. He's exactly the person that I would imagine to be involved in some stuff. Allegedly, I'll say allegedly. But when we got to the preliminary hearing, there was not a single piece of evidence that I felt was slam dunk. I was waiting for that, a photo. I mean, anything would have made me go, all right, I think this could be the guy. If they had handed over the discovery on the text messages, since that was their big ta-da, we've got the text messages, that would be the first thing that I would hand over. But actually, who was holding them up? Like I said, it wasn't the prosecution. They're right to say we were handing things over, and we heard the defense argue on behalf of the prosecution, saying it's not them and it's not the SBI, it's the FBI that's holding on to things. Is the FBI took everything. The FBI took the gun. The FBI took initially the screwdriver. And then when I heard testimony about the things that they found that were suspicious, example being the backpack, that's something that really bothers me, that they say they traced the shooter, they traced the route that he went on, and then there was an abandoned, we know it looks like he's wearing some sort of a backpack. We know that there was an abandoned backpack found at the bus stop in front of a library, and they felt that this should be taken into evidence. They took it. The FBI, this was the testimony of Amanda Baker, I believe her last name is, but you might want to fact check that because I think I'm blending last names. She was the forensics for the FBI. And then she says she gets a call on the 13th and they stop testing on this backpack because they find that the backpack actually belongs to somebody on Charlie's team. But if you know the map of the layout of the campus, you're going, well, what the hell are they doing all the way up? This is nowhere near anywhere. And by the way, that's not an acceptable answer for why you just gave it back. That's like, why would you give it back? You're acting like no one's ever been killed by somebody on their team before, right? So I found that to be very strange that it was on the exact route that the alleged gunman ran, and that their excuse was we just gave it back because we heard that this belonged to somebody on Charlie's team. So that to me is, this is why the investigation itself feels underwhelming. When you learn, and this is completely crazy to me, that some of the artifacts that Charlie was wearing were immediately returned to Erica. That's absurd. That is absurd. Everything should be in evidence. When you learn that the car that they carried Charlie in to go to the hospital, they had immediately towed, cleaned, and back up for resale, that's absurd. that should be sitting in evidence. And any police officer that you speak to will say, or person that's been involved in a crime will say, I didn't get my stuff back for years. That had nothing to do with anything. It was just around. And they kept it into evidence until the trial was over, and it has to be approved. I think somebody said by the attorney general has to sign off on giving you those objects back. And we were told this is all fine. And we see, this is just one example, Erica holding the crucifix. That should be in evidence. Irrespective of if you feel bad for her and think she should have, have it and it's sweet, that should be in evidence. Immediately paving over the crime scene. This is like the craziest thing ever. This is like defies common sense. You immediately, and when you heard the guy who did it actually go up on a podcast and explain.
That immediately fucking paving over that crime scene, dude, that is fucking weird, bro. That's, how is that even allowed? Like, even if they had construction scheduled, like, how did they not just fucking put that shit on hold? Where are my comments? Did you make comments that are not there? Last comment that I see, you said, normally I would agree with Andrew, but Candace is owning the debate. For that is, the audio is good. So Charlie had a Superman spine that can catch a high caliber bullet with his spine. Are you seeing all those? Immediately concreting over the crime scene is FBI work. Some comments were removed. I don't know what the deal is with the comments situation, man, because I don't really know how they work on here, but like on a lot of fucking shit, dude, they don't even give you an option on a lot of things to show all comments. It's either like newest comments or most popular comments or most relevant comments. That's the fucking craziest one. I'm like, fucking most relevant to who? What are you talking about? Just let me see all the goddamn comments.
Explain. I got the call. They said it was a paver emergency. I've never in my entire career heard of a paver emergency. They had already had someone come up and dig up the dirt. So by the time he got there on Sunday, the dirt had already been dug up for him to lay down pavers. That is what people are looking at and going, this is weird. There needs to be answers for why this was done. And he tells us the call came from the feds and the governor's office. UVU's washed their hands of it. And what he's saying
you got flagged.
Is true, because we heard during the testimony, one person described the regions of who was in control of everything. Mm-hmm. The feds were in control of the
You got flagged by YouTube or what?
Courtyard. So in order for anybody to have paved anything, that was federal territory, so to speak. I'm maybe not using that in the best cop term, but the feds were in control of the courtyard. So these are things that I think should be answered for. Why are we
she's
doing
kind of
things
talking about that
differently
right
than
there. Let
we
me go
would
back a little bit.
in any other criminal scenario?
All right, so it's on
keeping the
202,
evidence
42.
until we know more.
I'm going to go back like,
the various decoys.
let's
I
say
did it.
3 minutes.
It just doesn't look right.
Okay, so go back to the question.
It's not them, and it's not the SBI. It's the FBI that's holding on to things. Because the FBI took everything. The FBI took the gun. The FBI didn't ask him any questions. The fact that I spoke with Lance Twiggs' family, and they were like, it's very weird that the feds are not asking him more questions. He's exactly the person that I would imagine to be.
Are you talking about that? Welcome to live. Remember to guard your privacy. And is that what you're talking about? The disclaimer? Or are you seeing something else?
Involved in some stuff, allegedly. I'll say allegedly. But when we got to the preliminary hearing, there was not a single piece of evidence that I felt was slam dunk. I was waiting for that, a photo. I mean, anything would have made me go, all right, I think this could be the guy. If they had handed over the discovery on the text messages, since that was their big ta-da, we've got the text messages, that would be the first thing that I would hand over. But actually, who was holding them up? Like I said, it wasn't the prosecution. They're right to say we we were handing things over and we heard the defense argue on behalf of the prosecution saying it's not them and it's not the SBI, it's the FBI that's holding on to things. Is the FBI took everything. The FBI took the gun, the FBI took initially the screwdriver. And then when I heard testimony about the things that they found that were suspicious, example being the backpack, that's something that really bothers me, that they say they traced the shooter, they traced the route that he went on, and then there was an abandoned, we know it looks like he's wearing some sort of a backpack. We know that there was an abandoned backpack found at the bus stop in front of a library, and they felt that this should be taken into evidence. They took it. The FBI, this was the testimony of Amanda Baker, I believe her last name is, but you might want to fact check that because I think I'm blending last names. She was the forensics for the FBI. And then she says she gets a call on the 13th and they stop testing on this backpack because they find that the backpack actually belongs to somebody on Charlie's team. But if you know the map of the layout of the campus, you're going, well, what the hell are they doing all the way up? This is nowhere near anywhere. And by the way, that's not an acceptable answer for why you just gave
okay, so this is getting good, like, because Candace does have a lot of this really fucking a lot of these crazy details that I really don't think she's probably saving a lot of this for later on in the debate when it fucking escalates. Because a lot of these fucking crazy details that she has are fucking... This is the type of shit that has people like, what the fuck? That is weird. And it is. It is fucking weird.
on, and then there was an abandoned, we know it looks like he's wearing some sort of a backpack. We know that there was an abandoned backpack found at the bus stop in front of a library, and they felt that this should be taken into evidence. They took it. The FBI, this was the testimony of Amanda Baker, I believe her last name is, but you might want to fact check that because I think I'm blending last names. She was the forensics for the FBI. And then she says she gets a call on the 13th and they stop testing on this backpack because they find that the backpack actually belongs to somebody on Charlie's team. But if you know the map of the layout of the campus, you're going, well, what the hell are they doing all the way up? This is nowhere near anywhere. And by the way, that's not an acceptable answer for why you just gave it back. That's not like, why would you give it back? You're acting like no one's ever been killed by somebody on their team before, right? So I found that to be very strange that it was on the exact route that the alleged gunman ran, and that their excuse was we just gave it back because we heard that this belonged to somebody on Charlie's team. So that to me is, this is why the investigation itself feels underwhelming. When you learn, and this is completely crazy to me, that some of the artifacts that Charlie was wearing were immediately returned to Erica. That's absurd. That is absurd. Everything should be in evidence. When you learn that the car that they carried Charlie in to go to the hospital, they had immediately towed, cleaned, and back up for resale, that's absurd. That should be sitting in evidence. And any police officer that you speak to will say, or a person that's been involved in a crime will say, I didn't get my stuff back for years. That had nothing to do with anything. It was just around. And they kept it into evidence until the trial was over, and it has to be approved. I think somebody said by the attorney general has to sign off on giving you those objects back. And we were told this is all fine. And we see, this is just one example, Erica holding the crucifix. That should be in evidence. Irrespective of if you feel bad for her and think she should have it and it's sweet, that should be in evidence. Immediately paving over the crime scene. This is like the craziest thing ever. This like defies common sense. You immediately, and when you heard the guy who did it actually go up on a podcast and explain, I got the call. They said it was a paver emergency. I've never in my entire career heard of a paver emergency. They had already had someone come up and dig up the dirt. So by the time he got there on Sunday, the dirt had already been dug up for him to lay down pavers. That is what people are looking at and going, this is weird. There needs to be answers for why this was done. And he tells us the call came from the feds and the governor's office. UVU's washed their hands of it. And what he's saying sounds true because we heard during the testimony, one person described the regions of who was in control of everything. The feds were in control of the courtyard. So in order for anybody to have paved anything, that was federal territory, so to speak. I'm maybe not using that in the best cop term, but the feds were in control of the courtyard. So these are things that I think should be answered for. Why are we doing things differently than you would in any other criminal scenario of keeping the evidence until we know more, until we're confident, the various decoys. I did it. It just doesn't look right.
Okay, so go back to the question. So what would you need to see for you to say
Something, if they had, I was expecting, here we have him, he took the shot, here it is. And then I'd be like, great, a clear image of him on the staircase where I'm like, that's definitively Tyler Robinson and he was on
Right.
campus. We got nothing. We got literally nothing but hearsay of people saying,
But you basically get no case.
what?
You basically no case on planet Earth. You get the,
Sure.
oh, we got a picture.
Okay,
Here's him with the murder
you're
weapon.
right.
Here's him taking the
But
shot.
Most of this doesn't take place on a college campus that has surveillance everywhere.
Yeah.
One
but,
clear image of his.
But I don't understand when you're
his
asked,
car plates,
If
you
you're
know,
asked
like-
the question, what would it take to convince? It'd be the same question be asked to me, Andrew. What would it take to convince you that the oppositional is true,
Patsy.
right? That he's a patsy or something like
Right.
that. Just good, clear, concise evidence that's been presented, right, and is being presented that I could go through and link all together to see if there's actually some clear picture of there being a patsy. That's what it would take for me.
Okay.
Just a
I don't-
good.
I don't disagree
just
with that.
a
We haven't
good-
heard the
hang on,
defense
just
respond.
a good evidentiary standard, and then of course I would change my mind.
So just to qualify this, so there is a possibility in the next few months that you may come out and say, guys, it's done. Tyler killed him. So you're saying yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for the audience here. That from
Without
you,
question.
For you, is there anything that you could see for you to say, yeah, this guy was a patsy. The
Of
government was
course,
involved?
I'm going to always
Okay.
follow evidence.
Perfect.
So my whole thing is just this. It's really important to me. I don't mind people being truth seekers and justice searchers, and the internet has helped solve tons of crimes. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, right? However, there's also people who, they not only don't solve crimes, but they just come up with conjecture and they what's called flooding the zone. You flood the zone with tons and tons of conspiracy-based ideas, and they go nowhere, right? And in fact, they actually take away from legitimate investigation. Now, I'm not even saying anybody here is purposely flooding the zone. That's not even the claim. All I'm saying is that the claims made absent, this is just me not being convinced by the state's evidence. Those become claims, and claims have to be defended. Just like mine have to be defended, yours have to be defended. And that's what we're going to get to now, yeah?
You want to get into it? Would you guys like to take an ad break?
We'll take
before
an
we
ad
come
break.
back?
Take an ad break, sure.
And then we'll talk Erica Kirk and TPUSA.
And the conspiracies that have been conjectured by Candace Owens in regards to this case in the Charlie Kirk
Perfect.
assassination.
Folks, we'll take a 3.5 minute break and we'll be back soon.
All right, you guys, you have probably seen all the buzz around.
To create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at every step. Introducing the Future Looks Bright collection. Not rushed.
What is TikTok saying? There's a lot of comments rolling. Let's see.
Yeah,
Oh shit.
people watching you. Are you doing like live?
Yeah. Let me go back to the top here. Tyler went to a restaurant. Screwdriver and the weapon was left in the woods under a tree as it was placed there to be found. Candace is cooking Andrew. There is no such thing as a coincidence. What is TikTok saying? There's a lot of comments rolling. 300,000 well spent or not. And let's see.
That the
Fuck, I gotta go
alleged
back
gunman
again, man.
ran, and that their excuse was we just gave it back because we heard that
So-
this belonged to somebody on Charlie's team. So that to me is this is why the investigation itself feels underwhelming. When you learn, and this is completely crazy to me, that some of the artifacts that Charlie was wearing were immediately returned to Erica. That's absurd. That is absurd. Everything should be in evidence. When you learn that the car that they carried Charlie in to go to the hospital, they had immediately towed, cleaned, and back up for resale, that's absurd. That should be sitting in evidence. And any police officer that you speak to will say, or person that's been involved in a crime will say, I didn't get my stuff back for years. That had nothing to do with anything. It was just around. And they kept it into evidence until the trial was over, and it has to be approved. I think somebody said by the attorney general has to sign
weird.
off on giving you those objects back. And we were told this is all fine. And we see, this is just one example, Erica holding the crucifix. That should be in evidence. Irrespective of if you feel bad for her and think she should have have it and it's sweet. That should be in evidence.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Immediately paving over the crime scene. This is like the
Still got,
craziest thing ever. It's like, this like defies common sense.
2 hours
Immediately,
left.
when you heard the guy who did it actually go up on a
Probably not
podcast
gonna
and
go finish
explain,
it
I
all
got the
night.
call. They said it was a paver emergency. I've never in my entire career heard of a paver emergency.
A paver
They had already had
emergency.
someone come up and dig up the dirt. So by the time he got there on Sunday, the dirt had already been dug up for him to lay down pavers. That is what people are looking at and going, this is weird. There needs to be answers for why this was done. And he tells us the call came from the feds and the governor's office.
Bro, it's so fucking weird.
Wash their hands of it. And what he's saying sounds true because we heard during the testimony, one person described the regions of who was in control of everything. The feds were in control of the courtyard. So in order for anybody to have paved anything, that was federal territory, so to speak. I'm maybe not using that in the best cop term, but the feds were in control of the courtyard. So these are things that I think should be answered for. Why are we doing things differently than you would in any other criminal scenario of keeping the evidence until we know more, until we're confident, the various decoys.
What is this?
It just doesn't look
This
right.
is 2 hours and 2 minutes in.
Okay, so go back
I'm
to
gonna
the
come
question.
back
So
to
what
this.
would you need to see for you to say,
Something, if they had, I was expecting, here we have him, he took the shot, here it is. And then I'd be like, great, a clear image of him on the staircase where I'm like, that's definitively Tyler Robinson and he was on campus. We got nothing. We got literally nothing but hearsay of people saying,
But you basically get no case.
what?
You basically no case on planet Earth. You get the,
Sure.
oh, we got a picture.
Okay,
Here's him with the murder
you're
weapon.
right.
Here's him taking the
But
shot.
Most of this doesn't take place on a college campus that has surveillance everywhere.
Yeah.
One
but-
clear image of his.
But I don't understand when you're
his
asked
car plates,
If
you
you're
know,
asked
like-
the question, what would it take to convince? It'd be the same question be asked to me, Andrew. What would it take to convince you that the oppositional is true,
Patsy.
right? That he's a patsy or something like
Right.
that. Just good, clear, concise evidence that's been presented, right, and is being presented that I could go through and link all together to see if there's actually some clear picture of there being a patsy. That's what it would take from me.
Okay.
Just
I
a
don't-
good.
I don't disagree with
just
that.
a
We
good,
haven't heard the
hang on,
defense
just
respond.
a good evidentiary standard, and then of course I would change my mind.
so just to qualify this, so there is a possibility in the next few months that you may come out and say, guys, it's done. Tyler killed him. So you're saying yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for the audience here to from you.
Without question.
For you, is there anything that you could see for you to say, yeah, this guy was a patsy? the
Of
government was
course, I'm going to always
Okay.
follow evidence.
Perfect.
So my whole thing is just this. It's
Not
really
bad.
important to me.
Not
I don't
bad
mind
money at all.
people being truth seekers and justice searchers, and the internet has helped solve tons of crimes. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, right? However, there's also people who, they not only don't solve crimes, but they just come up with conjecture and what's called flooding the zone. You flood the zone with tons and tons of conspiracy-based ideas, and they go nowhere, right? And in fact, they actually take away from legitimate investigation. Now, I'm not even saying anybody here is purposely flooding the zone. That's not even the claim.
Well, I mean, you kind of have given her a hard time about that very similar sort of stuff there, Andrew. And the thing is, she is making some very good points. Those are some very fucking suspect ass things.
All I'm saying is that the claims made absent.
Yeah, bro. We both are.
This is just me not being convinced by the state's evidence. Those become claims, and claims have to be defended. Just like mine have to be defended, yours have to be defended. And that's what we're going to get to now, yeah?
You want to get into it? Would you guys like to take an ad break?
We'll take
before
an
we
ad
come
break.
back?
Take an ad break, sure.
And then we'll talk Erica Kirk and TPUSA.
And the conspiracies that have been conjectured by Candace Owens in regards to this case in the Charlie Kirk
Perfect.
assassination.
Folks, we'll take a 3.5 minute break and we'll be back soon.
All right, you guys, you have probably seen all the buzz around.
To create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at Okay, so we're officially back. Andrew, before we go into the other issues you want to talk about, is it fair to say you're good defending your position of the overwhelming evidence?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. You take the lead. Go for it.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of questions for you, and I want to make it super painless, right? So no traps, no gotchas. I'm just going to ask them direct. And I think that as long as they're not loaded, if they're loaded, you should not respond yes or no. But as long as they're not loaded, if I just directly ask them, I'm hoping that you'll just give me a direct answer. So here's the questions that I have.
Wait, before we get into that, I would like to just reply to that. So just to be clear, we agreed to debate our claims, and then I agreed publicly that I have no issues having a conversation with you about other things that I've discussed.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally valid points that she's making. That would be some shit if Andrew just spent a freaking $250,000 and he gets his ass handed to him in this debate.
That were outside of the court hearing and things like other evidence that's come across our lap and things that we've been speaking about. But I just do want to make it clear to viewers that for whatever reason you think that you have a right to sort of depose me.
I'm not deposing you. I just want to ask you some questions.
But you literally said that I want to be able to question
this is
you.
a meta conversation.
Right,
We're having
but
a meta
okay, so
debate.
now we're transcending. Like, let's use a
I mean,
word
there's no-
to
there's
use a
no-
word
nothing
that you're saying.
transcendent.
But this is what you're doing, right? So
Okay.
this part to me feels like a
So
bit of
am I
a.
allowed to ask the questions?
I've already said you can ask questions,
Then
but I
let me
made it
ask
very
them.
clear to you
Yeah.
via email and with you in conversation
Mhm.
that we should be speaking. This
Yeah, I
isn't
know,
like
but
you
I
get to
wanna-
sit.
I wanna
if
ask
said
you
if you
some
want to
questions.
depose me, you should join
I'm not
Brigitte
deposing
Macron's
you.
defense team.
This
But
is
you're
part-
like, I'm
this
just
is
going
a
to ask questions.
legitimate
Can you
part-
answer it? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what you're going to ask. And
I
I'm
know.
going to
And
answer
if
as
you
I
have
see
issues
fit
with
because
it,
I'm not.
I get it.
Yeah. Okay.
I get it.
Just
If-
so we're clear. 'Cause-
Usually in the debate, if something's not loaded, I'm just direct with
because
the
you kept
question,
saying
with
I'm
the
Joe
answer.
Rogan. They have no evidence. They have no evidence. And now you're like, let's move away from the evidence.
You
Let's talk about transcendentals.
actually, yeah, okay. Anyway, so direct question, super easy. Was Lance Twiggs DNA on the rifle, as far as you know?
We can't say that for certainty.
As far as you know.
I already answered that in the first part. We can't say that for certainty. I told you the context of which they spoke about those things.
So
was-
no, as far as you know.
We can't say that for certainty until we know what other the 5 sets of prints were
So
on
that
there.
would be no, as far as you know.
We can't say that for certainty.
You can say no, as far as I know for certain.
We can't say that for certainty. Actually,
You can
I,
say
just,
that
you
for
know,
certainty.
if your energy here is going to be like you're my dad and you can tell me how to speak or what I'm supposed to say, you're just going to come up against the wall. I'm
Okay,
familiar with
but-
this debate strategy.
but I
like,
am just
yes or no,
telling
yes or no,
you.
yes or no. We're not debating anymore. We're having a conversation. So I already addressed that in the first half of this about why.
No, we're still
there's-
definitely debating. This is still.
no, it's not a debate.
This is
Now
inclined
this
to
is you
your.
saying I want to probe
Yeah.
things that sit outside of the evidence. I actually already
That you've
addressed this.
stated.
You asked me.
Uh-huh.
You're not going to go like where you're
Okay.
sitting and I'm on trial. I'm not on trial.
Okay, great.
So
let's
you
talk
can
about
have a
the,
conversation
let's
as
talk
we've
about the
agreed
French.
to.
Let's talk about the Foreign Legion.
Sure.
Was the Foreign Legion, do you believe, trying to kill you?
Yes, that's why I reported it to the correct officials in government. That's what I was told, and I handed over that information to Tulsi Gabbard's office.
What's your best piece of evidence for that?
Well, it was
Positive evidence.
It was told to me
Mhm.
by somebody who is high up in the French government. I passed off that information to Tulsi Gabbard's office. I also passed it off to Trump's office, Donald Trump's office. And that's all I can tell you. I wouldn't be able to probe any evidence because I don't have the power to do that. I'm not the federal government. And I would also like to say that this becomes this other piece of what you do, which is when people say, this, I was told this, and this is the evidence that I have, and I'm willing to have that conversation and write the email to the correct government body that deals with this. Like, I can't hack into Emmanuel Macron's bank accounts and say whether or not the information.
I agree.
But then you go, well, where's your evidence? It's like, well, my evidence is that I reported it. I did the right thing that you're going to do. So if somebody calls and says, hey, Andrew, there's a viable death threat against you, and that person definitively has the rank to be able to tell you this, and you say, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to report that to the feds. Then I go, what's your evidence? It's like, well, I got the information, and I gave the information that I got from who I got it to the right body of people. And that's
Okay.
what I did.
Got it. I just want
Cool.
to make sure.
And so
I'm not
it-
trying to trap you.
Well,
I just want to make sure I got it clear.
And that's why I say I want to know what you're doing now, because this has always been the thing. It's like, we actually can't win on the overwhelming claim. So we're just going to go and bring up everything that I think can try to embarrass her. I reported
I'm
exactly
not
as I
trying to
received
embarrass
it.
you. I just want to make sure that I get your
Yes,
positions clear.
I have not said, yeah, go ahead.
Now, you have stated multiple times that you believe that Israel's involved in the death of Charlie Kirk.
Can you give
Yes,
me...
we can pull up the clip.
Can
I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
I finish the sentence?
Go ahead.
Can you give me the context for what are you talking about? Like when I say, generally speaking, why people think that Israel's involved?
hmm
Okay, where's your question?
Yeah. Do you have any positive evidence whatsoever that Israel killed Charlie Kirk?
Well, I couldn't say Israel was on the ground and shot and killed Charlie Kirk. I would say that there are various things that we're trying to establish, one being a motive. And since I don't believe that Tyler Robinson and his transferee is a convincing motive because he was fired up about politics, which Lance testified that he never spoke about with him, nor do I believe that he was so into LGBTQ issues, since Lance testified they never spoke about LGBTQ issues, that he stopped and ate at Chick-fil-A, which if you are into LGBTQ issues, wouldn't be your lunch before you go kill Charlie Kirk for LGBTQ issues, because,
Yeah, but do you have positive evidence?
I'm answering the question as I feel like I want to answer it. Like I said, you don't get to for an hour and a half pepper
But the question I'm
questions and
asking is
tell me-
about positive
I'm
evidence.
telling you that in any case, establishing a motive and and again, I already explained this at the top of the show, but the reason why people find Israel to be an interesting question is because truthfully, Charlie's perspectives were changing on Israel.
Sure.
And he was starting to realize how much pressure was being put on not just our government to constantly fight their wars, but also being put on his organization personally. If people had come out and been honest about that, rather than rabid claiming he never flinched and everybody's lying and this is not true, you would probably have people that just go, that's life. People change their opinions.
I understand.
And then there was the rabid, not even that. Everything was about trying to convince the public how much he liked it.
So then other than intuition, how you feel about things, do you have any evidence Israel was involved in killing Charlie Kirk?
I have already said, and if you're watching my show and the context of what I said, this is the general sense of why people think Israel's involved. Nobody has made the claim that Israelis, there were also, obviously
Ian
Joe
Carroll
Kent.
made the claim.
Well, Joe Kent, who I think would have the right to assert it, noted that there were 12 Israeli cell phones on the ground that day. I think most people would like to probe that. Now, it could be maybe they were students, and they were Israeli students in Utah that day. But we'd like to probe that narrative because what we've seen after coming from the Israeli government, the Israeli prime minister, kind of denying that he did it, which wasn't really necessary, was quite busy. The phone call that happened, which no one wants to discuss in the Hamptons the week prior, or not the week prior, I think it was around August 5th or 6th that took place. And again, the almost desperate lies about Charlie shifting opinion on Israel lead us to believe that there could be an Israeli angle in this. But we cannot say for certainty that Israel called the shots and this is how it happened. But it is definitively, I think, a thread that a lot of us would like to see.
You say there's no
pulled.
positive evidence.
Whatever you want to say, however positive, negative, however you want to say it.
Well, like positive evidence
I can just
would
have
be
a conversation.
Material evidence and other evidences which would
what
point
we
you
said
to
is on our show is what we said, which is this feels like a conspiracy building. There's no reason to lie about these things, and yet people are lying. BB ain't acting right. The Hamptons thing was weird, and the way they tried to shove the Israel narrative down our throat immediately. The day he died, posting a picture of him with an American and Israeli AI'd photo on the president's feed doesn't feel right.
Do you have any evidence that Erica Kirk or TPUSA participated in the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I've never said they participated in the murder of Charlie Kirk, so how could I say that I have evidence they participated in the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Okay, so then you don't believe that they did?
I never have said that statement, so I'm not going to get you to ask me personal questions about things that I've never said on record.
Okay, fair.
Your team is sending messages in the back saying they have a video they want to play.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know what the video is. Yes, you said that there's a video you want to play that Candace said she has full confidence Israel was involved.
Yep.
Yeah. He said evidence that they killed him. I said this is why people think they're involvement.
So if they have the clip, they can play the clip.
Yeah.
They're referring to a clip.
Yeah.
Via whom? My guess is Pierre. Erica. I think that there's a reason Pierre knew that Charlie was dead first. I think there's a reason he was a priority. How? Why? I think France and Israel are involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I'm going to put that out there with full confidence.
Okay.
I also
involvement.
I understand.
Yeah.
So you think you with full confidence you think that
I think
that
Israel's
France
involved.
and Israel.
Yeah. I mean, the person that gave me that thing that I reported said that French Foreign Legion were on the ground that day. Again, this would be at a professional limitation for me to then go and probe that information that I handed over. I can't do that. I'm not
But
the
you don't
United
have
States
any
government.
positive evidence of that.
Okay.
Right?
I don't. Can you just stop? It's actually just like annoying to hear you keep saying positive evidence. I've just asked me what I think, and I just tell you, yes, I think they are
that's
involved.
That's a claim.
No.
Yeah, you will definitely have to tell me about that. And let's see, Candace did.
I said, here's what I think.
I have every right to ask you about your claim.
Yeah, but
and if there's positive evidence
in
for
this
your
statement,
claim.
I literally just said, I think, and I am allowed to think. And
Yeah,
you
you're
keep
allowed to
saying,
think,
do you have
but you're making
positive
a
evidence?
claim.
I have tons of positive evidence that I'm allowed to think.
I
Yes.
agree. You're allowed to think.
Okay. So
Nobody's disputing whether or not
yeah, but
Candace
like
Owens is allowed to think. What I'm asking is if
but
you have
what's your issue then?
positive
What is your issue with the statement?
evidence.
I think
Uh-huh.
that Israel is involved.
That's
I
not
do.
what. That's not just what you said. You said
I did
that
say I
it's with
think.
it's with full confidence.
Yes.
You would
I
think that if you had full
you have confidence
confidence,
to think when you think.
But if I said, for instance, I think I'm going to be late to work, right, with full confidence, I would say my evidence for that is that I'm 20 minutes away and I need to be there in 5.
Andrew,
That's how you would know whether or not you had full
I'm just
confidence.
Gonna tell you something.
Hang on, let me finish.
Sure.
If it was the case that I said I have full confidence I'm going to be late to work, I would say my evidence that I'm going to be is that work is 20 minutes away, right, and I have to be there in 5. So I have full confidence. That's why I would think that. So I'm asking, if you think that Israel and France were involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and you say with full confidence, I'm just asking for the evidence, or at least walk me through the mindset of why it is that you could think that with
I
evidence.
actually don't have to walk you through why I think. I can give you something that I think with full confidence. I think with full confidence that you know you lost the substance of this debate, and now you're moving toward things that I have said that I think, which I can do. I'm
They're
allowed to
pertinent
think
to this debate.
It's not exactly pertinent to this
It's
debate.
100% pertinent.
It's not pertinent because our debate
These are claims made about Charlie Kirk's assassination. That's the complete substance of the debate.
No, actually, would you like to remind him of what our debate claims actually were?
And would you like to remind
You
you said I could ask you about any of these things to my heart's
feel
content?
free, but you do not get to structure how I'm allowed to reply or ask me
I'm
why
not
are you allowed to
structuring how you're
think.
allowed to reply. I'm just asking you direct questions.
I have full confidence that you do not feel that you represented your claim well. And so now what you came
That's
prepared
nice.
to
I just
do is
wanna
to
know-
present yourself like a professor of
I
fallacies.
just want to know.
And to say, you're not allowed to say that. You can't. It's
You
my
can say
podcast.
whatever you want.
Well, I
Nobody's
said it.
disputing that. I'm
It
asking.
seems like you are disputing
I'm
it.
asking
I think that
specifically
when this
why
is
you
all
think
said
that.
and done, I've already explained to you. I explained at the beginning of this
Mhm.
why I think Israel is ultimately going
France.
to be proven to have involvement in this. I just explained to you in the middle, and now you're wanting me to structure the sentence or provide evidence. You don't have to. You're just allowed to think. And I've explained to you my thought process. I don't need to structure it in a sentence. If you feel like a professor today, you picked the wrong day.
Don't you think that like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people would want to know what Candace Owens' positive evidence for why it is
No, I
that
don't-
Israel and France were
up,
involved
Denise?
in the most traumatic public assassination of Gen Z's lifetime is?
That's why they watch my podcast.
So you're just going to drip to them? Like, here's why
It's
I
not
think
dripping.
that?
Every time we come across any of these discussions, they're watching this in context and they know why I'm saying it. So,
I
for
don't know, he
example,
probably needs a
when
cigarette.
you're bringing up, well, Candace, where's your evidence for France doing this? I just told you someone who was high ranking in the French government, right?
His
Andrew
name
likes to
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
smoke a drink while
But
So
he's
there's good reason to
it's
doubt
not a
doing these
conspiracy, though,
debates.
if I then took it to the federal government. Like, you can't just go out there making a claim to the federal government. You get in trouble for making false statements and things of that nature. So, and then you go, well, I'm going to probe that. Well, how can you probe that? This happened
I
to
can
me.
ask you- well,
this
that's
is
not
my
what I'm probing
podcast.
specifically.
This is my podcast. I am sharing my life and my experiences and what has happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you're basically coming in like you're gonna regulate how I'm allowed to say
Nope,
it. If
I'm
I'm
not
allowed
trying to
to
regulate
say it.
anything. I'm asking
you're,
very
you're
pertinent
sounding a bit
questions.
like a professor trying to regulate and say, Candace,
You sound
you
very
can't say, I
defensive
think.
and like you just don't want to answer
I,
questions.
I did answer your question 3
You
times. I just didn't
literally-
say it in the way that you wanted
you
me to
just
say
kind
it.
of obfuscate and you run away from it. But I would like for you to
let's
actually
just go through
focus
every
on it.
clip that you guys have prepared because it's pretty. I think with full confidence, people will recognize the strategy that you're trying to employ. So let's get to the next clip you have prepared.
Sure, they can pull up whatever clips they
whatever
want.
it is
yeah.
that you guys have prepared. So
But I would still, on this point, I just want to make sure that you have full confidence that France and Israel were involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
I think in
and
the
you
end-
have no evidence for it at all that you'll give us.
Well, I already did tell you where it came from. Like I said, I can explain it to you. I can't understand
Did
it
that
for
same
you. So if
higher
you
up
need to-
tell you
if
that
need
he was
to-
going to kill, or that France killed Charlie
Dude,
Kirk?
I gotta
or just
hand
that
it to
you were-
Candace, man.
They
She
said that
is
the French Foreign
she is
Legion-
not backing down whatsoever. And she is not letting like Andrew run all over her like he typically does. And Andrew is a great debater, and respect to him for it. But I'm pretty impressed with Candace's performance here, to be honest with you.
was involved and on the ground that day. I've already said that. You just don't like hearing it.
No,
Candace, just out of curiosity,
Yes.
when you pass down that message to Tulsi or Trump,
Tulsi's office, yes.
Tulsi's office, are you giving
Andrew spent time behind bars, like in prison? Isn't he able to like own firearms and shit?
them who told you that, or you're just saying, here's what I heard from
And
somebody?
I have this information.
Sure.
And of course, if they wanted to open a file on it, which I thought was quite mysterious, that Trump's office never got back to us. It was kind of weird about like, from maybe they're not the correct office to. I did receive a response from Tulsi Gabbard's office, but I don't think there was ever any investigation into what I
Got it.
said.
So the call was, hey, I've been
Emailed.
told the email.
Yes.
Email was, I've been told
I have
somebody is-
information, that the French Foreign Legion was on the ground during Charlie's assassination, and that, I mean, it was a lot of information, but
Well,
like
you didn't give specifics who it was from.
not in the first email because I figured they would like,
Perfect.
yeah,
So if they do contact you,
100,
are you
yes.
comfortable giving 100% who it is?
I would absolutely give them as
And-
much
and
information
can I
as
ask a
possible.
question? If whoever's the U.S. government, why are you not?
Yes, it's very strange to me.
You know, so if that's the case, now they may respond back and say, we did, you know, that's their position.
I did.
I'm
That's
not
why I
involved.
did it in writing.
And so I'm glad that's the case
Yes.
because so if they
And
do
right
ask
away in
you,
Trump's office, his like Margot got right back to me. She said it was on his desk, so he has that. There's no.
and if you do say that and
Mm-hmm.
they contact that individual, obviously you don't have to leak your sources here.
Mm-hmm.
Is there enough credibility where that person would be willing to talk to them and explain to them exactly what their sources are?
Yes,
Okay. I mean, that's,
it seems reasonable. And so why he's asking me to defend that is like
I'm not. Never
I
did.
think those are two different things. That's more
Two
something I
totally
asked you
different
to say,
claims.
why are they not reaching out to you?
I've asked that many times on my podcast.
What do you think about that, Andrew?
What?
The fact that she emailed, she gave it, and nobody reached out to want to contact the
They
source. that
probably
she's willing
didn't
to
think it was
share.
actionable, is my guess. But even if they did think it was actionable, great. Every lead should be followed up on within the confines of what's rational and reasonable.
Is it fair to say that this is maybe a different individual because this is a person that was involved with TPUSA
Well, we
and had a
don't-
relationship
Wait,
with Charlie?
who?
No, her relationship. Like
Yeah.
this isn't just anybody. So if an average person sends it, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't know who the source is. We don't know any
But
of
then
this.
if you were in that department, wouldn't you want to, even you assign it to one of your
There's
guys
no
to
guarantee
say,
they didn't look into it. How do we know? We don't
How
know.
could they
No,
if
how
they didn't
could they
come
if
get
she didn't give it
the
to them?
information, more of the information, because it
And
was a
by the way,
long
this-
file.
Yeah.
This is a separate, this has
Did you
got
send
nothing to
them
do
the
with the
guy's
debate.
name?
This is more on
Well, I sent the email assuming that's I'm saying like you go and you make a report. You think they're going to come back to you and say, hey, what's more information? We're investigating this, and that didn't happen, and which is what I raised.
No,
I
I'm
found
asking,
that,
did you send them the
especially
source of
because
the
this was at
claim?
a time where they were saying that they wanted to explore every possible lead. I even texted Dan Bongino.
But did you-
So actually, it was three offices.
Let me ask
the
one question and then
executive
I'm gonna come to
office,
you.
Dan Bongino,
Yeah.
and Tulsi Gabbard's office.
Okay, so a follow up to that is the following.
Mm-hmm.
If they contact you to say, is that specifically to the French government or Israel's involvement in the killing of Charlie Kirk?
That wasn't about
Those
Israel.
are two separate things.
That wasn't about Israel. It was
Okay,
they were
got it.
saying the French foreign, that person as a part of it was saying that it was the French Foreign Legion that was on the ground that
So
day.
I'm surprised
And
they haven't
think
called you.
then
Yeah, I
found
like
that to be very
Candace.
strange, too.
I do as well.
Because who would
I've
wanna
followed
make a
Candace
report? Like,
for
I mean,
a
I've never made a
long time.
report with the federal
But
Let
when
me
he
government.
ask one
did-
question.
but
Let
when
me
he
just
did
ask one
send
question.
it-
Let me just ask one
Okay.
question, and then I'm going to bring
Okay.
it to you.
Sure.
The question is in regards to, I've not seen that clip, so I'm seeing it now. I'm full confidence. I believe that Israel and French was involved. Is that also based on a source that somebody told you that Israel was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, or is that a gut feeling?
So in terms of Israel, I mean, what I've said is what I publicly have said here. I do think that at the end of this,
see.
we are going to find that Israel was involved. I do. Now, in terms of any of the hard evidence that's been presented, I think this has been a huge problem that a lot of us have had is that they won't even explore anything else that was going on in Charlie's life personally. So if we're not satisfied that Tyler Robinson did this in any way, then every alternative theory should be explored. Other evidence should be brought forward. We've done that in our capacity. Like when people keep saying she has no evidence, it's kind of crazy. I think we've broken like more stories than any news source in the world. I mean, down to pictures, details, police officers, what the dog's name was, because we're not the only people that believe there's a conspiracy here. The police officers that were involved, the many police, sheriff's offices, that were departments that were involved that day, all believe there was a conspiracy. Down to the U.S. Marshals believe there was a conspiracy. They were my sources at the U.S. Marshals were saying they were basically sent on a wild goose chase that day.
But do you see how you say my sources?
Am I not allowed to have sources?
Well,
Like
the thing is funny.
So is CNN allowed to have
well,
sources?
hang on. I
but
have
we can't?
sources. If I said I have sources that claim none of that's true. In fact, my sources claim that her sources are lying. My sources claim that none of them believe that there's a conspiracy. My sources claim all of them really think that Tyler Robinson was a lone gunman. If I just said that as hypothetical, wouldn't you say, what?
Yeah, I think what probably adds weight is like then when I drop photos of the car that no one was supposed to see, people go, okay, her sources are legit. So, and then when what I say is then proven in court and nobody knew those things, people are recognizing that my sources are legit. When I say Charlie was scared in the last days, and then I dropped the text message, which you've just learned about a couple of weeks ago, of him saying he was leaving the pro-Israel cause when everyone was lying about that, then they say, I think Candace's sources are legit. So I think what's happened is I've actually built up a rapport with my audience that it's not vibes and dreams, and that's why they keep watching my content, because like, for example, when I just the other day released the content of the shooter on the roof doing the lateral crawl, then they're going, I don't think these are just vibes. It seems like Candace's sources are legit. So I've proven myself in the market.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would legitimize your sources as being legitimate when it comes to the idea that, oh, they all believe that there's a conspiracy going on, which is actually what your claim is now. How would that actually, hang on, I'm almost done.
How would that, talking to PVD
how would that legitimize, well, it's not his debate. How would it legitimize these sources that even if it's the case that you get some court footage or some things like this, why would it legitimize that your sources are telling you all the marshals believe it's a conspiracy, all the police believe it's a conspiracy, everybody believes it? How would that legitimize any of that?
What I am saying to you, and you are not forced to believe it. So let me just explain what I was answering here, and I think that you understood what I was saying. Is I have, because people trust me, compiled a lot of information and presented it to the public, and this information has been proven true. We've presented photos, we have presented videos, never before seen stuff. The public has never seen it. And so what that does is your audience goes, okay, when she says that she has these sources, clearly she's telling the truth. Now, whether you would then go, well, I'm going to believe her when she says they think that there's a conspiracy, that's up to you. You cannot watch my content. I'm not here to tell you that you have to watch my content or believe everything I'm saying.
Well, don't you think questioners should get questioned as well?
By who? I'm not committing a crime, am I? By just saying what I think and collecting
aren't
evidence?
most of the people you ask questions of not actually committing crimes?
But what do you mean they should answer questions where? Like at a police station? Like,
no,
what are you
just
saying?
like if you want people to come in and answer questions for you. I have questions about this in the investigation. I have questions about this. I have questions about that. You want them to answer your questions. Doesn't it seem totally fair that you answer back the questions people have for you?
Well, they're not answering our questions. So it's also fair that they don't answer them.
So you're
That's
okay.
why I said
so
Andrew Colvett should be in this chair. He's not.
But
That's
isn't that
his prerogative.
But isn't that a double standard?
No, it's not, because he's not doing it.
Yeah, but that would still be a double standard. If you're requesting that he does do it, then that seems to infer that you think he owes you answers.
Oh, so inferences are allowed again?
And they never weren't. So that seems to infer that you think that he owes you answers. If that's the case, then don't you owe answers?
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm answering your questions and his questions about, I'm talking about Andrew Colvett. His position is he's a spokesperson for Turning Point USA. So when the crowd turns against Turning Point USA on the basis of a lack of information or because there has been, I don't know, seeds sown of distrust, I would imagine, and forget answering my questions because it doesn't need to be me.
Aren't you sowing a lot of those seeds of distrust?
Well, I think they're doing a pretty good job themselves, if I'm being honest. You can blame it on Candace all you want.
Well,
people love to do that.
The thing is funny is
people act like I'm
I
ground
think
zero.
I'll be fair with you.
Ground zero of people not trusting Turning Point USA.
I think that there was some
actually kind of
PR there.
last.
I think there was some PR there. Sure, they could have done better. Absolutely. I'm not disputing any of that. One thing, though, that I want to just directly ask you is, do you actually believe that anybody in TPUSA or Erica Kirk or Erica actually participated, had foreknowledge of, or facilitated the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I'm not going to get myself into a legal pickle here. Everything I've said is on my podcast. I think firmly that if I was the investigating officers, I would seat them all and I would ask questions. I would at this phase. I would.
Okay,
so
what does
using
that
a hypothetical.
mean? Does that mean that you do think so?
I think it was not a sufficient investigation into what we know to be true of 80% of homicides. It's usually conducted by someone you know, right? And the fact that that was never even considered, that like I said earlier, the backpack was returned.
How do you know that was never considered?
Because they gave back the backpack, as just one example. They gave back the backpack. They gave back the...
that doesn't show a conspiracy.
Well, I mean, it shows that the police trusted everybody and didn't just hold things up for a second.
They ruled them out as suspects.
That quickly, I'm not comfortable with that investigation. It's a pretty big organization. There's a $100 million incentive. This is...
What $100 million incentive?
What I'm saying is his organization, it had grown to, I think it was 100 million.
Plus per year.
Yeah, per year. If that's something you want to factor.
Yeah, but what was
Your team wants to play a video, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
There's a video they want to play of Candace said it's impossible to not believe Erica's complicit. If you guys want to play that video.
That's also just asking.
And so right now, their guys are going out and they're going to look for evidence. And then by May, which is fortunately around the corner, then she'll see what they found. So what the F is that performance? How could you sit up there and say, yes, I 100% believe Tyler Robinson did it?
So Grok says that as a result of this debate, that see, what did it say? Okay, so it never, there was no official winner or anything like that. Uh, fuck, I just saw. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Post debate analysis and full consensus of the both. No, fuck. Did this shit just change what it told me? So it basically had just told me. Oh, this is Gemini. Yeah, Gemini's giving me different shit. Uh, so Grok actually says that public reaction and online commentary heavily favored Candace Owens in terms of perceived performance, composure, and delivery. Nice, nice. Dude, I'm proud of Candace. I am, dude, because I was kind of worried. I mean, not really worried, but like I was kind of hoping that Andrew, being as good of a debater as he is, like didn't like just walk all over Candace. But dude, Candace is really fucking. She's doing good, man. Dude, fucking props, Candace. And after the debate, public consensus is favoring Candace. Fucking nice. Yeah, I mean, it's like Andrew is. I mean, Andrew is like really sticking to the legitimate, evidence from court and shit because it's all very like legitimate type stuff that sure. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be argued with, but it's just been legitimized, but like legally or whatever. But at the same time, like he is kind of, it's like what I think it was a chick that was in the chat earlier that had said that Candace, or it might have been one of the other guys, it was saying that Candace like completely ignores facts, but Andrew never does really respond to the really suspicious things that Candace presents, like the paving over the crime scene, the car that got fucking cleaned and sold, and the backpack. Like Andrew's not really responding to any of that, and that is all very suspicious behavior.
Right there is why it is impossible for me to think that Erica Kirk is not complicit somehow. Because what?
Those two thoughts actually don't even follow. How would it be the case that even if Erica Kirk did believe that Tyler Robinson was 100% responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk, let's just say she believed it with every fiber of her being, believed all the evidence, because she did. She just actually did. Would it then follow that somehow she's complicit in his death?
I didn't say complicit in death. You added those two words.
Okay, so what's she complicit in?
Yes. So sowing this narrative that Tyler Robinson is guilty. So you're chopping up clips. Like I said, you didn't have the confidence to come in and
tell
debate.
me,
So
what
now
does
you're
that mean?
chopping
What
it
does
up.
complicit mean?
We are showing a clip of her on Barry Weiss, which I can't remember the date that she did that interview. And Erica, when she is asked, "Are you do you feel with 100% certainty that Tyler Robinson did this?" And she says, "I do." Then again, context matters. I sit down with Erica for 4 hours under the assumption that she had some evidence, right? Like I'm like, this is why I did not engage in any like Erica, everyone's questioning what she's wearing and all this stuff. I was like, I'm going to wait here because I don't know, just it feels weird to think that, did I think that some of her mannerisms were weird and stuff like that? Yeah, but that's not, you can't convict somebody on weird mannerisms. And then when I sat down with her and I was expecting for her to say, well, I'm obviously the victim on the case and we got to see the shot, taken or this or that, whatever it is. Great. You know, that's why she has that much confidence 2 months ago. And when I sat down with her, it was nothing. It was nothing. Okay, so this is a conversation.
How would that make her complicit?
Complicit. And again, you said complicit in the death of Charlie Kirk.
Complicit in what? Yeah.
Well, if you let me finish my sentence, I could tell you that. But my point being is that then you take a look at this and you go, okay, well, this is weird. Why would you have this confidence? And then when you sit across from somebody and you say, okay, great, I want to go out there and defend you now. I want people to know that you can't say this stuff publicly, but you know more things. And she just blanks. And then she says, well, I'm going to call the lawyer. And she called the lawyer. Again, all of this is on my show. So out of context clips is not going to work because I know what I say on my show. Okay. So we call her lawyer, and her lawyer says to us, she calls him on the phone, pardon me. And it's me, her, and Justin Strife. And I'm like, okay, great. What do you guys have? He goes, well, we don't have anything yet. We're not at that phase yet. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't have anything? And he says, well, don't you know how it works? It's a probable cause hearing. So basically the state says that they're going to bring this forward. And now our people go out and they look for the evidence to assert that Tyler Robinson is guilty. And so I asked her directly, her lawyer directly, the phone's in between us. I'm like, wait, so just so I'm clear, you haven't seen anything that the public hasn't seen? And he says, no. So I'm going back in my head and I'm going, okay, so why is Erica saying with such a degree of certainty, like she was sent out to convince the public, and people bit, by the way. I remember even Megyn Kelly was like, let's wait. She's going to have access to things. I did think she had access to things that we didn't have. Why express that confidence to the public as opposed to just being like, we don't know yet. I feel confident he's involved. They made an arrest.
I don't understand. How would any of this make her complicit and in what?
Well, I've already told you. She's complicit in trying to fool the public into thinking this is some open and shut case.
How is she trying to fool the public into this? If she believes
like, don't look anywhere else.
If she believes that Tyler Robinson killed Kirk, if she believes that, how would that be complicit in anything?
I do.
Are you saying that you think she doesn't believe it?
I don't believe that at that stage she sat down with Barry Weiss that's what she believes. No, but that's my opinion.
Right, but so when you just say complicit, you just mean she believes that Tyler Robinson killed Kirk? That's it?
That's what we were talking about. That's why I said if your strategy was to dice up clips and take it out of context and make it seem like I said she was complicit.
Everything.
Yeah, but then why not just play the full thing? Like why?
Because we don't have like infinite amounts of time. I'm guessing you probably don't want to watch.
Well, I'm going to go back to my theory that you didn't feel confident that you could defend your claim that it was overwhelming evidence. So now you're trying to move towards doctored clips and getting me to respond to it.
Well, there's no doctored anything. I'm just making sure that we got this right.
Yes,
that what you're actually saying is that Erica is just complicit in believing it.
When I re-examined her actions backward, because I did not have this perspective of her at the beginning, which is why it's so funny to me that you guys make it seem like I'm ground zero. People thought Erica was sus from day I forgive him. And I was not a part of that. I did not lean into that. I did not contribute to that. I was getting actually terrible messages from my fans being like, Candace, you and Charlie always say to go with your intuition. You won't address this, how we all feel about her. Things changed for me when I saw that Zoom call. I will tell you that for sure. And the fact that she lied to me. So I sat across from her.
I'm about to get off here.
You know, I wanted to have that conversation publicly, but they're probably grateful I didn't do it publicly.
Before I do, I'm going to try to
she told me
make some short form content and put it out over this topic.
Naturally, when
because
somebody
it's going
lies
to
to you, you go
trending for a few days.
People only lie when they're trying to obscure something else.
Have you addressed what that lie was?
Yeah, I've talked about, we have a list of lies that we've been told by Charlie. We can find that,
I'm sure.
Holla at you tomorrow.
Well, no, I didn't want her to cage up. I didn't want to do this. And because I didn't know what